Welcome to your host, Tyshawn Jackson. It is Hardly Initiated's first episode of 2025, and I'm here with my co-host, Ryan Ketchens, and something very special for you guys, because we brought Pastor Danny up in here tonight, and we are about to give you a powerful testimony of how Pastor Danny went literally from the streets, from the trenches of porn, now to the pulpit. Let's get to it. Happy New Year, my initiates. It's your first time seeing us back on Hardly Initiated, and we miss you guys.
It's been a few weeks, been like a month since we've been on.
Yeah.
And look, we took some time off for ourselves, getting back into the routine.
Yeah.
Getting back into some scripture, the reading, the personal development. The muscles going crazy.
And that, the New Year, the holidays kind of take you off a little bit.
Yeah,
and,
it's tricky.
Kind of get you off your routine and your flow. But now we finally getting back into it. And it feels good. I hope y'all haven't quit on y'all New Year's resolutions already, because you know how y'all get. Let's go ahead and stay strong, family. And this one here gonna make it just a little bit stronger, because I want to welcome this very powerful sister to Hardly Initiated. I spoke to you last year, and I told you it ain't if, it's when. And today is the day. I got Pastor Danny on the platform. Welcome to Hardly Initiated.
Thank you both for having me. Pleasure.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You got an incredible testimony. And because I'm we're doing our due diligence, and I called Tyshawn. I said, I don't think we had a testimony like this one before.
Really?
Yeah, it's incredible. And for you to make it through those things, which we're gonna talk about, we're gonna dig into everything.
Okay.
I think that's truly phenomenal.
Thank you.
So we're glad that you really on the other side of things and here with us. Yeah.
Absolutely. So look, if y'all ready, go ahead and drop a "we ready" in the chat. All right, so drop it in the chat. As y'all know, for people who are new here, every Monday and Wednesday night at 8 p.m. outside the new year when we decide to take off, all right? But every Monday and Wednesday night, we are here 8 p.m. Eastern time, live in the flesh. So y'all go ahead and drop that in the chat if you're ready for this show.
Now, one of the biggest things, a lot of our initiates, they're asking for the dating content.
Yeah.
So we created a whole new world, Hardly in Love, which is a subsidiary.
Whole spinoff.
Yeah, whole spinoff of Hardly Initiated. Guys, we literally put together a brand new YouTube channel. We officially 3 episodes in, almost 3,000 subscribers. We had 600 people in the live last Thursday.
Yeah.
And, it's my initiates have now, really, they live in 2 different lives, because the initiates and we got the lovers.
Yeah.
That's what is in Hardly in Love. So if you interested in dating, exclusively dating content, dating interviews, dating activations, live blind dating, all you got to do is click the link in the description. Join us on Hardly in Love. We are live every Thursday at 8. Now, this week, we launching Tuesdays at 8.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So you guys tune in. We got some really incredible stuff coming for you guys. And also for my people, man, my flesh fighters this year, we still have the Fight the Flesh bracelets available as a trinket, a token, a reminder for the everyday fight and battle that we have out here in these streets. So you can go ahead and get that as well. That's going to be in the description.
It really becomes a part of you. Like, I'm not kidding. We was talking about going out, and I just want to go out with some friends. Your friends, sometimes they go to places where they got drinks, Yeah. And I'm not kidding you. I was getting ready, and I'm, putting on my watch, and everything. I'm, getting my hair right and everything. And I no cap. I thought about not putting on my Fight the Flesh bracelet.
It's like not putting on your wedding ring that night.
Exactly. I was like, and I'm like, wow.
What kind of night I'm about to have tonight?
Exactly. And I'm like, wow, that's really crazy. It's really attached to me. But look, I put it on, and it started some conversations, and fortunately, it curbed some conversations that it could have took a whole another direction. So please, you like me, you probably need one of these. So go ahead and click the link in the description and get yours today.
Absolutely. That's exciting. Well, what's exciting also is your story. So I'm ready to get into it. I think I see some we readies in the chat. So the people, our initiates, are ready as well. Man, Pastor Danny, we about to start. I got to start from the beginning.
Yeah.
We got to go back to your childhood, because we can't just start at where it all happened. I think before the action happens, before the conflict and these trenches happen in our life, that things that lead up, that take us there.
Absolutely.
So when you think about your childhood, walk me back to what that start was that led you to where you were.
And take us to the West Coast. Because when I found out where you was from, I immediately just thought of the most gangster stuff I could think of.
Right.
So tell us about what it was like growing up on the West Coast.
Born and raised in LA, all over LA, but primarily Compton with my grandparents. So the testimony, obviously, like you said, from porn to the pulpit. And most people, when they say that, they get different feelings, different emotions and different opinions. But I always say there's always a story and a reason why certain people make certain decisions. Nobody wakes up, not that I've ever met in my lifetime. No one ever wakes up and says, I want to do porn today. I want to be a crackhead today. I want to, there are things that take place in people's lives. So before I ever touched a porn set or before I ever went into a strip club, I was a little girl. I was a little girl who had been molested by my babysitter's son when I was 8 years old. My father had primary custody of me. I was a daddy's girl. Like, me and my dad were like this, but my dad had some issues. He had some mental health issues on top of alcoholism. And so my father had like a bipolar or schizophrenic outbreak, and he tried to kill me. He tried to beat me halfway to death and then tried to drown me in a bathtub when I was 10 years old.
So before you even got to that point, was your mother around at all? Like, what was the relationship dynamic with your mother and father?
So in the beginning, I grew up in a very volatile environment. My mother and father were very violent towards each other, even in divorce. And so typically with children, they normally go with mom or split down the middle. But my dad was like, you can leave, but my daughter gonna stay here. So I stayed with my dad. And so my dad had primary custody. I was with my dad all the time. We were thick as thieves. And so you can only imagine how detrimental it was to me emotionally and mentally to see my hero trying to kill me. Outside of his alcoholism and his mental health issues, he also was a womanizer. So at a young age, I thought it was normal for men to have multiple women. I thought it was normal for men to beat women, because if daddy was doing it, it got to be okay. That's why I always tell parents, watch what you're doing in front of your kids, because we're soaking up every little thing,
everything,
the good and the bad. And so early, I thought that dysfunction was normal. And so 10 years old, dad tried to kill me. After that, I kind of bounced around from family to family until ultimately I ended up in LA with my mom. And that relationship was a little strained in the beginning. She's my best friend now, but at that time, it was strained. All I wanted was my dad. Even after he violated me, I still wanted my father. Rebellious with my mom. And I remember just doing my own thing. One day I ended up coming home early. She wasn't there. I didn't have my keys. And there was a neighbor across the street, family friend, Uncle so-and-so.
Okay.
And I was waiting outside, and he came out and he was like, what's going on? I said, I'm locked out the house. And he said, well, you can come in my house and wait for me. And so this man that I had trusted, this man I was familiar with, invited me into his home, and he raped me when I was 12.
Wow.
Never said anything, because an abuser's objective is to instill fear, and make you feel like you're guilty for somebody else's wrongdoing. And so I didn't tell anybody. A year later, I was at a bus stop. And this fine young gentleman had pulled up, and he was the finest man I had ever seen in my life. Mind you, I'm 13, and he was an older man in a nice car. He pulled into the gas station, and he showed interest, and I didn't know that he was a pimp. And so I had started dealing with him, and I had sex one time at 13 years old, and I got pregnant by this 27-year-old pimp. And I was thinking in my young, immature mind that this older man liked me and he wanted me, and the whole time he just wanted to pimp me. But at that time, for whatever reason, I had some sense and didn't do it.
Okay, this is a lot to unpack here.
Yeah, I ain't even halfway through, right?
So at 8 years old, I want to go back a bit. At 8 years old, the sexual assault at 8 years old.
Yes.
That was, you were in custody of your
babysitter.
Okay. Your father, you was in custody of your father, and it was a babysitter.
Yes.
I'm sure someone that, your father at the time trusted. Was that the first time you were introduced to any sort of sexual experience?
Correct. I was 8 years old. And what was interesting, it's like the devil had a target on me at a young age because it was a daycare. And so it was other kids there, but for whatever reason, I was his pick. So the babysitter had a son around 13, 14 years old. He was a teenager. And, you got to run errands, go get food, go get this, whatever. And so when she would leave, he was old enough to watch the kids. And so when mom would leave, he would bring me into his room and he would stick toys in me. He would stick his fingers in me. And he told me if I ever told anybody, he would kill me or they wouldn't believe me. And every time.
And how old was he?
He was about 13 or 14 and I was 8.
I mean,
It makes you wonder. Now
it does, because he probably had some similar experiences, but in general, a young man going through adolescence, hormones raging around little girls is never a recipe for it, no matter how good the kid is.
Absolutely.
No, I get it. I mean, but it's levels to wickedness. I mean, at 13 years old,
wow,
I'm sure he got a little wild story too, because for those thoughts to be roaming around your mind at 13 is wild.
Now, I want to touch on this because, we've had people to share their testimony and, talk about the sexual assault. But one thing I don't think we've dug into is what the fallout is from the parents and the family friends. So after that happened, did you go back to your father and express, what happened? And if so, what was his reaction to that?
No, I never told anybody about the abuse. I never told anybody. Again, an abuser's objective is to instill fear and fault, make you feel like it's your fault, put fear in you that if you tell somebody, they either won't believe you or if you tell somebody, they're going to harm you. So I had that instilled in my mind that if I say something, it's going to go bad. So I never told anybody. I didn't tell anybody about the babysitter son. I didn't tell anybody about the neighbor. Wow. And I had to look at both of them for quite some time, and I just had to hold this in my heart.
Was there any resentment building at that time?
Oh,
of your father and your mother at that time?
Not yet. Not in that particular moment. I think I had resentment once my dad did what he did.
Okay.
Yeah. Because I was still, so this is where rejection came, and I noticed that it affected relationships later on. And even, I think I just broke free from this, but the spirit of rejection, because even though my father had violated me, I still was a daddy's girl. I still wanted him. I still didn't see, you ever seen a little kid, they mama a crackhead or their daddy is don't want nothing to do, but they still, my mama, my daddy, my mama. It's because it doesn't matter how old you get or what they do. Every child wants their parent, until they build up that wall, that resentment later. And so even though he did that to me, I still wanted my daddy, and he didn't want me. And so I remember I would call him to come get me, and I would tell him to come get me, and everything is cool, and I'm sorry, and apologizing for what he did to me, and he would never come get me after that. And I noticed in relationships later and friendships later, anytime I felt like they were pulling away or they were going to leave me, I automatically go into this almost begging you to stay. And then later on in ministry, it's like a red flag. If you say you leaving me or you going to walk away from me, it does something to me because it takes me all the way back to my childhood. So that's where the rejection came in, because my dad left me and I didn't know why, and so it just opened up a door to so much.
I can only imagine.
Yeah.
And before the night of where your dad pretty much attempted to murder you, was there any, like when you look back at it, were there any signs or, certain things going on where you kind of felt like, okay, he's not really there mentally, it's something going on emotionally where he can kind of be a little finicky, or was it a complete surprise when?
I think I was surprised that he did it to me. I saw him beat every woman in his life. Like I saw, y'all know that scene on What's Love Got to Do With It when Ike was dragging Tina down the hallway and the kids was right. Like that's what I used to see. We had a long hallway in Carson, California. Shout out to California. We praying for my city while it's burning. But we had a long hallway, and I recall my father pulling a young lady by her hair down the hallway while I was in my room, and she had just got her hair done, and he put her head in the toilet, like, and I watched this and I witnessed this. And so every time I saw him flip out or saw him abusive, it was always towards someone else. It had never been towards me. So he was a horrible man, but he was a great dad. Horrible man, but a great dad, like very involved with my schooling, had me in activities, and very like homework, sit down with me, do homework, like always had me with him in the front seat. Like we were like this. And so I saw his behavior on other people, but when it was turned on me, it blew me. Yeah.
Man, so do you feel like what you saw had a lot to do with you ending up in the car with that pimp when he pulled up?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
At that point, you were sexually exposed.
Not that much.
Okay.
I officially lost my virginity at 12 years old. I'm not proud of it, but I was a willing participant, because I don't consider what the babysitter's son did. If you were molested and somebody broke your hymen, I don't consider that to be your first sexual experience. That was your first violation. So even though the babysitter's son started at 8 years old, I didn't become a willing participant until I was 12. And I had only had sex. Yeah.
Right, at 12.
Yeah, you didn't force me to do it.
Right.
Yeah. And so, and I had only had sex one time at 12 willingly. And then I met the pimp and I had sex with him one time and got pregnant.
And at 12, the first time, you losing your virginity, was that a young adolescent boy, or was that an adult male as well?
He was 18.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
A lot of older guys here.
Older, yeah.
Yeah.
Always. After the split with my dad, it was like that's what I started drawing to. Older.
So go ahead.
Well, because you hear that from women, dealing with older men, and I think that now goes into the gender dynamic when adult men saying they want to deal with younger adult women. Now I think a lot of it is because women have been abused as adolescents, and they're dealing with these 18-year-olds, 21-year-olds, and so forth. With those men, did you at that time, like looking back at it, did they do anything that was specifically predatory? Like, did they do things to lure you in? Like what was the interaction like for them, for you to lay with them at some point?
I don't believe that I was lured. I believe that I thought that they actually cared. I believe that I had this teenage young girl's mentality that when a man shows you interest, you think that he genuinely likes you. A lot of young ladies and even old women, they say we got old fools, a lot of, I don't think it has anything to do with age. I think it has to do with experience and maturity. But a lot of times when a man shows you interest, women think, oh, he likes me. He loves me. This is genuine. And he got a whole different agenda. And so for me, I think when they showed interest, I didn't think that it was anything attached to it. Yeah. I later found out.
Right.
Wow.
Yeah.
So now, you're pregnant by a pimp.
Yes.
That's 27 years old.
Mm-hmm.
What happens from here? What happens, with your now upcoming baby and everything else?
Okay, I'm 13 years old in the 8th grade. I'm hiding my pregnancy. My mom didn't know. Nobody knew that I was pregnant. I went up into, I think the first time when I told him we had scheduled an abortion, I went into that clinic and I sat there. And when I was sitting there, I just was like, I can't do that. I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. The people was outside picketing, the pro-life people were picketing. It was like everything, all the noise just stopped. Everything around me was just weird. Like the movies, when you just don't hear anything, but you see movement. And I was sitting in that lobby waiting to go to the back, and I'm seeing moms come out. I'm seeing women rolled out in wheelchairs. I'm seeing the people outside with their picket. And I just ran out of there. And I think at that point I was probably early in the pregnancy, like 2 or 3 months. And I ran out of it. And again, being a 13-year-old little girl, I thought if you ignored it, it'll go away.
Wait, was he in there with you?
No, he didn't. He was supposed to take me, and he didn't answer the phone, so I got on the bus and went myself.
At 13?
At 13, skipped school. He was supposed to pick me up down the street from my school. He didn't come. I called him from a payphone. If you watch, y'all was waiting on you. He never showed up, so I just jumped on the bus and went myself, and I'm sitting in that lobby, and I couldn't do it. Jumped on the bus, I left. 13 years old, thinking if I don't think about it, it's going to go away. If I don't acknowledge it, it's going to go away. But Tyshawn, that's not how pregnancy works. You don't have to take a pill. You don't have to go to the doctor. That baby's still growing. And so 3 months turned into 6 months. And I don't know what happened on this particular day, but I had decided on this particular day, February 20th, 2003, I had decided that I was going to keep my baby. My mom dropped me off at school, and the clinic was down the street from my school. I waited for my mom to drive off. I went to the clinic, and I told the nurse who had told me I was pregnant a couple of months ago. I told her, I said, I don't know how far along I am. I'm pretty sure I'm far, but I'm ready to start prenatal care because I decided I'm gonna keep the baby. I'm gonna tell my mom I'm gonna keep it, but I need to start getting ready.
They still didn't know at this point.
Nobody knows I'm 6 months pregnant. Wow. And so I tell the nurse, I'm like, yeah, I'm ready to I'm ready to start taking care of myself, whatever. She examines me. She's like, you're about 23 weeks pregnant. I'm finna get your prenatal, get your blood work. I'm sitting in the lobby. And while I'm sitting in the lobby, there's this sharp pain that hits me in my back. I go to stand up to get the nurse, and blood and water just flows out of me. My water breaks, full of blood. The lady comes rushing out. They call the ambulance. I'm taken to the hospital. The nurse is in there telling me, you in labor. You finna have this baby. I'm like, no, I'm trying to rip IVs out of my arms. I'm like, no. They're like, we got to call your mom. I'm like, no, it's getting late. I got to go home, thinking I can get on the bus and go home. Just young and dumb. And the police come in. Social workers are like, you cannot leave. You're going to have the baby. Who can we call? I said, call my granny. Call my granny. And my mom happened to be at my grandparents' house.
Wow.
And the nurse calls my grandmother and says, hey, I need you to come up to the hospital. Fast forward a couple of hours, my mom and my grandma came in there, and it was time for me to push. They told me that he was going to be a stillborn, but when I pushed him, the baby was very much alive. It was a boy, and so they tried to save him, and they was like, nah, it's no way. They brought the baby back to me. The baby was still breathing. He was moving slowly. You can see him gasping for air. And in my mind, I thought he was gonna be okay. I think he was holding on because when I said I love you and I kissed him, it was like he was waiting for that moment. He smiled and he took his last breath. When the baby died in my arms, that's when something shifted in me. So everything that I had suppressed at 8 years old with the babysitter son, everything that I had suppressed with my dad trying to kill me at 10, everything that I suppressed at 12 with the neighbor, the pimp, baby daddy, something shifted. So the same little girl that went into the hospital wasn't the same little girl that came out. And that's when the floodgates of hell opened up in that moment. I think a piece of me, my innocence, the little innocence that I had left, it died with the baby.
Wow.
It's the most traumatic event that happened to you at such a young age.
13 years old.
13. 5 days before my birthday. I had him February 20th, 2003. My birthday was February 25th. So for years, I was so depressed. I used to have to, oh yeah, we'll get to that. Yeah, so I carried that. So then I leave the hospital. And I'm on go now. I'm rebellious. I'm angry. I'm hurt. I'm broken. I feel like now it's my parents' fault. Now this is where when you said, did you have any feelings towards them? That now I'm mad at the world. Now is my mom. I don't want to hear what my mama got to say. Now it's my daddy's fault. I'm not listening to my grandparents. I'm doing what I want to do. So I end up running away, and I end up running away to this man. He was a drug dealer, and he was a pimp. When I got to him, ironically, he wasn't trying to pimp me when I got there.
And how did you know these? How did you know these? Like associate with these people?
Because I knew somebody that knew him.
Okay.
And I had met him through her a couple of times, and he liked me. And so when I ran away, I went to the girl's house, and then we went over to his house, and he was like, well, you can stay here, and I started living with a stranger. And ironically, even though I knew he was a drug dealer, I knew he was a pimp, he didn't try to pimp me. So I'm like, oh, this is the first man that's, nice to me. Well, they say you ain't supposed to get high on your own supply. He must didn't hear that rule, because he would get high. And when he would get high off of cocaine, it was like Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde. So this nice man that had welcomed me into his house and had been taking care of me and been this great person in my eyes, when he got high, he wanted to have sex. And I didn't want to have sex because we didn't have that type of dynamic. You were just a friend helping me out. So I didn't look at him in that way. And so when he got high, he wanted to have sex. And I'm like, nah. And so he would beat me. We would fight. We would go toe to toe. We would fight all the time. Every time he was high, and I'm beat up, I'm bloody. And then when his high was gone, when he was sober again, he's back to being nice. And so this is what I would have to deal with every couple of days. Well, he had a customer who was a dancer, and she would come to the house once a week to buy ecstasy. Well, she would buy cocaine and weed. And she came to the house one day, and I was all beat up and stuff. And she said, girl, you ain't got to take this. You can, I'm like, well, where I'm going to go? He take care of me. I ran away from home, blah, blah, blah. And she was like, well, you can come to the club with me and make your own money, and you ain't got to deal with this. So in her mind, she was helping me.
Right.
She was helping me get away from this abusive man, but really it just opened up Pandora's box. So again, I'm from LA. You can get anything in LA. You know what I'm saying? So I went and got me a fake ID, and I started stripping at 14 years old in the nightclubs with this young lady. Yeah.
And that's just a lot. Like, was that common? Was there other young women your age in those clubs doing the same thing?
Probably. Yeah.
And nobody really cared. Like,
you show the bouncer your ID, that's good enough for them, And so I started stripping at 14, and she was right. I started making money, and again, money to me at 14 was $200, but this is back in the early 2000s too. So, getting on stage and coming off with $200 at 14 and only being on stage for 5 to 8 minutes, that was a lot of money to me.
Right.
And so, she was right. I was making money, but I still was a little girl in a grown woman's world. And so the things that I was seeing in the club, the stuff that I was seeing in the champagne room, the stuff I was seeing in the dressing room, I just wasn't ready for it. Like, I wasn't ready to fill those shoes. You know what I'm saying? And so I did it for a couple of weeks until I was like, yeah, nah, this ain't for me.
And these adults that are around, because I'm sure, I understand you had a fake ID, but I'm sure, people peep game with what's going on.
Yeah.
What were they just completely ignored it?
Every man for themselves. Oof. Yeah, every man for themselves. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, so
I can only imagine what that was. I mean, I cannot imagine what that was like actually at 14 seeing that.
Yeah,
I can't
I wasn't ready
what
for
that's
it.
like as an adult.
was you still
I
in
wasn't
school?
ready for it.
Were you still in school as well?
I had run away. No, I wasn't in school at this time.
Okay.
But yeah, I wasn't ready for it. Even the men, she told me we were dancing. So, most men come to the club for more than just a dance. And I wasn't prepared for none of that, but that's what was happening. I wasn't prepared to be back there watching girls sniff coke and pop pills and shoot heroin. I wasn't prepared for pimps to be out there arguing over. I wasn't ready for it then. And so I decided I wasn't going to do it no more. So I go home to my grandparents in Compton. And I thank God for them, because if you're going to be in grandma and granddaddy house, you going to church. Like, okay. they Southern Baptists from Birmingham, Alabama. I don't know how they ended up in Compton, but they came from Birmingham, and they are Southern Baptists. And if you're going to be in their house, you going to church.
And there was no question asked. They just...
No, you hear, okay, you be going back to school. So I got back in school, was in church all day, every day, got me a summer job, was doing good. I was doing good. I was back on the right track. But again, you got to go to church. And it seemed like I was at church. I should have been a preacher. I should have been up there doing Bible study as much as I was in the church. It was like I was there all the time. And I had decided, like, if I'm going to be here as much, I might as well do something I enjoy. And at that time, I used to love to sing, end up joining the youth choir at my church. Again, I'm doing well. Everything is balanced. I got stability. I'm back, where I should be as a 15-year-old child. In the choir, singing for Jesus, befriend my choir member. My choir member introduced me to prostitution.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, how old was this person?
18.
And it's a young lady.
Young lady.
And she's already
in the choir.
In the choir.
And she's actively a prostitute.
Actively a prostitute in the choir. In the choir.
That's just
was this
mind-blowing.
not known? Was this not known?
No. Nobody knew.
And what do you think she saw? Because, what did she see in you? Because I'm sure she's just not asking every
I want to know that too. That's a good question.
Like, what did she see on you where she was comfortable enough to say,
question.
"Hey, what's up?"
Great question. So, familiar spirits, I guess. We became friends, and when you become friends with people, you start confiding in them. You talk to them. So I had told her, I used to dance, and she said, "Me too. I still dance." She was like, and I was like, "You dance? Not you singing for Jesus? Not you sounding up here looking like a little Tamala man up here? Like, I know you ain't dancing, And so she was like, "Yeah, I still don't tell nobody, but yeah, I still dance, and I live by myself, and yeah, I love God, but I get my money." And she said, "Why did you stop?" And I told her, I said, I wasn't ready for that, and I'm back with my grandparents, and they ain't going for that. And she was like, "Well, I live by myself. You can live with me, and you can dance with me." So I ran away from stability. I ran away from a safe haven with my grandparents. I ran away from comfort and safety, and ran away again with my choir member.
Staying with her.
Start staying with her, but I was bamboozled because it had nothing to do with dancing. It had nothing to do with stripping. I don't even think we went to the strip club together, as a matter of fact. When I got there, we were there for a few days. That's when the introduction of cocaine was introduced to me. And she loosened me up, made me comfortable for a few days. And then the conversation was had, ain't no money in the clubs. I'm like, "What you mean ain't no money in the clubs? I just had made some money. I just left the club, And she said, "Well, real money, is between your legs. You're going to have to, do a little bit of extra if you want more money." And I basically, you got to prostitute yourself. And she had tricks, clients, customers, whatever you want to call them, lined up. And before I know it, she told me to sniff some coke and take a few drinks, and I'll be able to do it. And she was right. I sniffed some coke, I took a few drinks, and I was able to do it.
At 14 years old still?
15.
It's 15. Now, let's backtrack a little. Oh my gosh,
this is crazy.
Yeah, let's backtrack a little bit. So she makes you this offer.
Yeah.
And says, "Hey, let's pretty much work together."
Yes.
Now, what about that life was attractive to you to even go back to it?
I guess freedom. She lived on her own. Nobody, I'm living with my grandparents. She had a nice car. She had a nice apartment out in the valley, which was getting burnt up right now.
Right.
So she was out in the hills, and she was by herself. So I thought, and so I'm like, all right, I can go back to it. And I didn't have to worry about no man beating me. See, when I ran away the first time with the first guy, he would get high and I had to fight and do all that. Well, she my homegirl, so it's going to be a different vibe. And it just was freedom. It was a sense of trust that opened that door for me.
Wow. Mm-hmm. And okay.
Because, she's in the choir with me, of course.
Yeah. And
of course you're gonna trust your choir. Remember, we up here singing about Jesus, and now you got me sniffing coke.
Right.
It happened so fast, But there was no guard up because I met her in the house of God, not realizing the biggest devils are in the
devil's got
Absolutely.
folks evangelizing in the church.
You hear me?
They do. Now you said something very interesting. Her response to you was, "I love God. I just
God.
also strip." Mm-hmm. Now, did you
get money?
Get money.
Get money.
Right. She was doing other stuff. I was
Yeah.
not tripping. Did you consider yourself a Christian at that time?
I did.
And so did she.
And so did she. And so do many.
That's a whole conversation.
So do many believe that they are a Christian and live a totally alternative lifestyle, because I love God should be enough for me to do whatever I want to do. No conviction, no relationship, just religion. Your religion says Christian, but you have no relationship. So that was my religion. That was her religion, but we had no relationship.
Wow. And first off, we're going to table that because that's a whole nother conversation.
Yeah, I know
too,
it is.
Yeah, no, facts. No, it really was.
These alternative lifestyle, double lifestyle Christians out there.
How can you identify that though? Like for people that might be in these situations, because to think that the church is supposed to be the safe place for you, you know, like the place for you to ascend to the saint, you know, not necessarily for you to go even lower, you know, into hell. So how can somebody identify that they might be either dealing with the wrong crowd or the wrong community, you know, in a space like church? Like, what should they identify?
You can identify anything that goes against God's will. You don't need to be there. Anybody or anything that goes outside of the will of God, it's a wolf in sheep clothing. One thing about it, the Bible does not leave us ignorant. It tells us about false prophets. It tells us about wolves in sheep clothing. It tells us to not be deceived. It tells us all of the devil comes in as an angel of light and all of that. So we know them by their fruit. So if you an orange tree, I shouldn't be tasting pears. If you a watermelon tree, I shouldn't be tasting avocados. You know what I'm saying? We know them by their fruit. And if your fruit is not in my faith, then I don't need to be connected.
Okay. There you have it.
And it's more. It's more because, you know, you dealing with this young lady. She introduced you to prostitution.
And drugs. I wasn't doing drugs.
That's a big part, though.
Yeah.
Right.
Drugs is a big part.
Of the lifestyle in general.
In general, yeah.
Now, it even feels weird for me to ask you this question, but the first experience where you in this transactional situation.
Okay.
What was that like? What was that like? Like, how was that even? How? Because I get she says it, you see it, you see these clients, you know what has to be done, but put it together. Like, how does it go from that to actually in right there in front of you?
The first client.
Right.
I'll never forget it. I don't think you ever forget your first anything. I'll never forget it. And her prostitution was not low key. It was like on the corner. Yeah, like on the corner at night in the cold.
Wow.
And so she said, just stand here like you would stand at a bus stop. And I said, okay. And it actually was a bus stop right there. So she said, just stand here like you at the bus stop and let them do the rest. And you get in, and she gave me all the instructions, and you do this, and here, gave me a little pocket knife in case somebody's crazy, yada, yada, yada. And so I was, I believe I was on Sherman Oaks Boulevard, and it was late at night, and I had this little stupid skirt on and this raggedy wig. And I was just standing there kind of walking back and forth, pacing really, like, I can't believe that this was going. And cars just kept passing. I was like, thank God, nobody stopping. You know, I was hoping that nobody would stop. And right when I was finna be like, girl, it's cold, I'm finna go back, the first car pulls up. The car pulls up, and the area that I'm in is a very rich area. So I believe it was a BMW or a Mercedes or something like that. And I opened the door. It was a non-black male, because she told me we don't deal with our kind because it might be a pimp or a police officer. So don't get in the car with our kind. So this man was of a different race. And I couldn't even open the door. I was shaking. I couldn't even open the door. So he reached over and pulled the handle for me to let me in. He let me in. We drove back to his place, and I thought we would go to a hotel. We drove back to his place. He sat there, and we talked for a second because I thought it was going to be a wham, bam, thank you, ma'am. But it a lot of times it wasn't. Even in my years of being in the sex industry, it was men that would pick me up just to have companionship, just to talk, just to hang out, whatever. So not every transaction was always sexual. Majority were, but not 100%. So I was thrown off by the fact that he was like, you know, have a drink, let's talk. Who are you? What do you do? What do you like? You know, and I'm like, what? But he was trying to make me comfortable. And I was getting comfortable until it was time to do. I thought, oh, we gonna play spades. Oh, he cool, you know. But it obviously took a turn, and I remember that first transaction, and I just laid there. I don't even know how he got excited, because I didn't give no effort. I was just so in shock. I was in shock that this was happening. I was in disbelief. I felt like I was having an outer body experience. I couldn't wait for it to be over, and it was over pretty quickly. Amen. Thank you, Lord. And it was over, and we got back in the car. He took me back to where he picked me up. And I remember crying, walking back and forth, crying, hoping that another car wouldn't pull up, and another car pulled up, and another car pulled up. And, that was my first night.
Multiple sexual experiences your first night.
Yeah, I think 3 that night.
Wow.
What changed? Did something else change that night? Or were you already, at the point of numbness, from prior?
Yeah. She met me after the first one and gave me another line of coke to keep going. And so I went back out there, dried my eyes, I fixed my wig, I fixed my skirt, and I went back where I was at.
Eventually, was it even scary at some point? Like, did it ever just get normal, or was it scary every time?
I don't think it got normal until I got into the porn industry. But anytime there was a stranger in a car, you never get used to it. Anytime that I left the clubs, because once I departed from her, because she was straight prostitution. When I finally departed from her, because she had a pimp and all this other stuff, and I ain't never been no fool like that. If my baby daddy couldn't get me to do it, I'm sure not finna go with your dude, Right. So she was straight prostitution. And when those cars would pull up, it's almost like your heart would drop in your knees, because you don't know if is this gonna be the one? Is this gonna be the last one? Yeah. Is this gonna be the one? Either the condom. I used to be scared that condoms would break. About HIV and STDs. Also, is this Freaky Jason? Am I with Jeffrey Dahmer? Freddy Krueger or somebody picking me up? So every time the car pulled up, it's like I can hear my heart beat through my chest. And then once I departed from her, I went into the clubs because I couldn't, I wasn't no on the corner type chick. I did that for a minute, but that really wasn't my stilo. That really wasn't my thing. So I went back into the clubs. And I was comfortable with taking a man in the back room because I'm still within the confinement of the club. But then there were some that was like, no, I want you to go home with me. And then that fear will come back, like, I'm leaving with him. Am I going to be able to return back? So, no, it wasn't. Anytime you got in a car with a stranger, it's not a comfortable feeling.
So times have changed.
Oh, yeah.
And sex work is becoming, just people in general becoming more numb to it, and you will hear conversations, you'll hear it in the music, you'll see on TV. It's just like, this is just what some guys choose to do. They just choose to get prostitutes here and there, or some as a lifestyle all the time. And it's just doesn't seem like it's a big deal, in many of these circles, unfortunately.
It is.
Do you think that people, particularly men, matter of fact, men and women, have a fair understanding of what it's like to be involved in sex work?
I don't think you'll have an understanding until you experience it. From either side, whether you're a client that's involving yourself with prostitutes or you're a prostitute involving yourself with clients. Education is one thing, but experience is something totally different. I don't know the mind of a murderer because I ain't never killed nobody. I don't think I ever did nothing like that. You know what I'm saying? But I don't know the mind of a murderer because that's not nothing I walked in. But I know the mind of a prostitute because that's something I lived. I know the mind of somebody who was molested or raped. I know the mind of a teenage girl that gets pregnant because those are the shoes that I walked in. So unless you're experiencing it for yourself, I don't think you truly understand the detriment of it. The devastation of it, the fear of it, and the door that you open up.
And I'm glad you stated that. And I asked that because you will hear a lot of times where, people are speaking about, men specifically speaking about their experience with prostitutes. And even now, women now too, with bringing another woman into the bedroom and that kind of deal. you know, the way that it's spoken of is like, hey, this was a quality experience. You know, I had a great time.
Mm-hmm.
This person was professional. They took care of me. They did what we paid them to do.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
They seem to give me excellent service, and it seems like they're happy with the transaction. That's how, you know, and it can make it seem like, hey,
it's no big deal.
It's no big deal.
Mm-hmm.
Like, she got some money, I got what I needed, and everything is all good. But to hear you on the other side and talk about the fear and the trauma that comes with every single transaction is, I think that's the actual reality of it.
And the emotional and mental that comes with that. Like, I don't know a girl who ever just is what was after the high is done. That's why most sex workers, male or female, are always in some type of substance abuse, whether it's alcohol or drugs.
It's hand in hand.
It's hand in hand, because nobody, unless you are absolutely out of your mind, can do this sober-minded. It's because I always had to stay high, and I overdosed on ecstasy 3 times. I almost died 3 times. But I had to stay high because the reality of what I was doing would have took me out. There is nobody that I know in the industry, past, present, or probably even future, that can do this, get dressed, take a shower, put their clothes on, get in their car, drive to wherever they're going, and lay on their back with strangers in those type of transactions in a sober mind. Because the mental and emotional torment alone, forget, you know, freaky Jason picking you up and finna kill you, you know, just what you have to deal with when you look in the mirror is a lot within itself. So I had to stay drunk. I had to stay high because emotionally and mentally it was too much to bear.
I think I'm happy you said that. I think that's a sign, because I think there's certain environments people put themselves in where they don't feel comfortable unless they're under some kind of substance. And that's always a red flag. You know, like some people, they may go out regularly. I know people that's like party promoters, you know, even on that end, but they gotta make sure they under the influence of alcohol for them to have a good time. You may have friends that you have to be under some kind of influence to even be around this person comfortably, or they're going to be pissed off. Why you not smoking? Or why we not drinking? Right? So like, if there's any environment where substance abuse is required for you to have a good time, or just for you to even be around or in that space, that says a lot about the type of environment that you in.
Absolutely.
I mean, that probably means that if you experience that same environment sober, you probably wouldn't even be there.
That
Agreed.
part.
That's really what it is.
That part.
So now you are, which is crazy, because we just really overlooking the fact that everybody having sex with this woman at this point is completely committing a crime at this point. Like they're having sex with an underage woman over and over again.
And I'm sure prostitution was illegal at that time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it still is.
Prostitution is definitely legal.
Let me go ahead and Google that.
So it's
it's illegal.
Yeah.
So how does the transition from prostitution to porn now? How does that?
Okay.
Wait, hold tight. Did you see that lady in church again? Like did you go back to church after that?
I did not.
Okay. I was
not
wondering.
that particular church.
You couldn't.
Okay.
Was it? Did you just feel too guilty to go back, or?
I didn't go back to that church, but here's the thing. I was a HIPAA Christian. So, again, shout out to my grandparents for instilling Jesus in me. And I felt like no matter what type of life that I led, I still owed him his time. And so I would lead a club and go to church. I get out the bed with 2 chicks and go to church. I get out the bed with a married man and go to church. I go to some of the churches that the pastors were my clients. So I always kept God with me. I had got this tattoo of Jesus on the cross because I said, as long as I'm in hell, I got Jesus with me. I know it was crazy, right? But I felt like if I went to church, I was still giving God his time. And then it was a level of protection and reverence in some type of way. Like, even though I'm living like this, I'm still going to give you your time, and gave them stripper money and everything. Well, the Bible say the wealth of the wicked is stored up for the righteous anyway. So I'll take my club money and put it in the offering. Because church was instilled in me. I couldn't go back to that church because my grandparents were there and I had run away. I'm still ran away at this point. I'm still a runaway. at this point in time. So I didn't go back to that church, but I found a couple of them to go and frequently go and go before I go to work.
See that, first of all, that's because me, I'm more on the type when we just had a conversation with a brother about this, because I spoke to a brother who hasn't been living right, and he was communicating that he hasn't been praying, he hasn't been going to church, and he hasn't been doing these things because he feels a level of guilt. You know, it's like he has this God guilt because he know he ain't been right. So now it's almost like he just MIA on God right now until he's really ready to get back in the rhythm. And I find myself to be quite similar. Like when I'm thinking about the times I was really deep in sin, there wasn't no praying and, wasn't no reading scripture. No, it's like, matter of fact, I see the Bible, I'm trying not to look at it. I'm trying to look away at the Bible. I don't even want to make eye contact with the Bible right now, because I know what's really going down. So to think about,
I was complete opposite.
To think about you doing that is really, that's different to me.
Yeah, I was complete opposite. And even now, I tell people as a pastor, as a leader, I tell people, ain't no such thing as I'm gonna come to God when I get myself together, because you'll never get yourself together. Yeah. And what do you think Christianity is? Jesus came for the sinners. He came for the ones who are deep in sin, in alcoholism and perversion and sexual immorality, unforgiveness, bitterness, whatever, mental health issues. He came for you. I think the best time to come to church is when you're in it. So then he can come in. And that whole come as you are, first of all, it ain't biblical anyway. I can't find no scripture about it, but it is a saying, come as you are, but you shouldn't stay as you are. You can come as a crackhead. You can come as a prostitute. You can come as a whoremonger, a womanizer. And that's how he will accept you. But then you allow the relationship to transform you. When you're deep in sin, that should be I'm a go. Even though I'm living foul, even though I'm living wrong, I'm going to still give God his time, because even though I was a whole prostitute, I was a whole stripper, dope dealer at this point, gangbanger, all of that stuff, between the ages of, when did I start? Between ages of 14 was when I hit the club, up until 19 actually is when I really stopped. I was all of these things, and yet I stayed in church. And although someone would say, well, how could you go to church knowing the life that you live? But I'm glad I went to church, because God was planting some type of seed in me. That's why in my church, we're non-judgmental. We're just Jesus. We're not traditional. We're transformational. We don't know religion. We know relationship, because my leaders, my armor bearers, everybody in my church know, I don't care if she come in here with a bikini on. I don't care if he come here smelling like crack and weed and whatever. We love on them. We pray for them. We show them all kind of love, because whether they come in here and then leave and go get high or go sleep around, there was something that they got while they were here. The Bible says, I planted, Apollos watered, but God gave the increase. That seed that was planted, somebody gonna come and water it. And then at the appointed time, God gonna give them the increase, and you don't know what's gonna come out of their life. So I don't believe in turning nobody away, and I don't believe in nobody turning themselves away because of something that they're struggling with at that time.
No, clearly understood that. Clearly understood. And guys, just be patient. We're going to open the phones line, all right? So we're going to have the hotline opening up, all right? Yeah. Just a little bit later, so y'all stay patient with us.
Back. We got 1,100 people in the chat. Took a while to get that 1,000 mark in the chat. Guys, we are back live Monday and Wednesdays. And we also just launched Hardly in Love, which is a super dope dating activation channel. Everything relationships, everything dating. Tuesdays and Thursday nights at 8 p.m. So, guys, we're going to be live 4 times a week. Yeah. I don't know what I'm going to do with my life.
So we had to get
a little bit. There's a lot.
This is a lot, y'all. But listen, we committed. And we committed to, man, it's so, this testimony is so powerful, because I'm really putting myself, you paint such a vivid picture of what you was, experiencing. And now take me now to the height of this. Okay. Because I think porn was the height now.
Oh yeah.
Your story. Mm-hmm. How did we get there?
Okay, so I went back into the clubs. I'm stripping and I'm prostituting in the clubs. While I was there were some porn stars that came in, and I knew who they was, because the Saints be watching porn. So I knew they were famous porn stars as well, heightened back in our day. very well known. They came in the club, and I called myself just saying, hey. I called myself just speaking to them, like, hey, girl, I know your work. What's up? You know? And the conversation took a turn that ultimately changed my life. I said, hey, and one young lady looked me up and down. I mean, she looked me up and down. She examined me, and she said, have you ever considered doing porn? And I think I started cussing a little bit. I was like, no, absolutely not. And she said, why? You can make a lot of money. You think you making money now? You ain't seen nothing yet. And then she proceeds to tell me I made $30,000 from doing movies in 1 month. Now, mind you, this the early 2000s. $30,000 today.
It's a banger.
$30,000 in 1 month is still great money.
Absolutely.
Okay. So back then it was. So she said I made $30,000 from doing movies, and she said, take my card. I was like, no, I ain't. I'll take your card, but I just didn't see that for me, right? Mm-hmm. Now, what had happened was I was a little rough around the edges. I told you I'm from Compton, right? So yeah. I would like be fighting. So I beat up a few of the girls in the club, right? And so the manager said, you gotta go. You up here beating up all my girls. How they gonna make money? You know, they black and blue. You fighting them like you Debo. You know what I'm saying? So I got fired from the strip club.
Wow.
I got fired from the strip club. I'm in my apartment like, what I'm gonna do? I don't want to go back to no corner. I don't want to go back to no another club, whatever. What I'm gonna do? I looked at my purse and I saw her card. I called her, and she invited me to a porn set, and I went. A couple of days later, I went to the porn set, and it was something that was out of a movie. Like it was something. It was so surreal. It was so like almost like what was the movie Scarface, Tony Montana, yeah, women New Jack City, how it was so surreal. I saw these big cameras, and I saw these producers with headphones on their head like ours, and I saw naked people all over the place in these big old mansions, and I see nothing but Rolls Royces and Bentleys and Benzes out in the parking lot, and I'm just like, I'm blown away. And an agent was there, and she came up to me, and they made the introduction, and she said, I can get a lot of work for you. You young and this, that, and the third, you have a certain look. I can get you working as soon as you get your STD test back. You have to go to this place called AIM. You go there and you get tested every 30 days. And so she said, well, I'll make your, they'll pay for your test. Your first one, it's on them because they want to get you working. And so she set up my appointment to get me tested. Obviously, I was negative, and I was ready for my first scene.
Wow!
And again, that first, you never forget the first. It was the worst. It was the worst thing I had ever experienced. Because again, like most, I've seen porn many a times, but I never did it. So what we see for all you porn addicts, what you see is the edited version.
Right. You
see the, final copy. You have no idea the in-betweens or what it took for her or him to do that, what was going on prior to when the camera was rolling. And so I got to see porn from the other side of the camera. And it was the worst experience of my life. I remember I couldn't walk. Because obviously in order for a woman can look any kind of way to do porn, but for a man, you have to be a certain size. You have, and most of them are extremely well endowed, like abnormal, like abnormal, like like what is that? I had never experienced nothing like. Ryan, you laughing? I thought they were deformed. I had never experienced nothing like that in my life. And obviously porn is not a love making. Are you crying?
That caught me off guard. But I get what you're saying. That's what's required. That's what's required.
It's required to be well endowed. And when I tell you they were well endowed, and mind you, I'm 18. And although I'm not a virgin, although I have been privy to this sex work and prostitution, I'm dealing with average
Joes.
9 to 5 guys that ain't, mad at their wife, don't got nobody, just want to have a good night. I'm dealing with regular people. Now I'm on the set with half me and half horses. Okay.
Wow.
Obviously this ain't no gentle, let me make love to you. It's very rough. It's very aggressive. And it was just the worst. Like when you get on set, it's take your clothes off. You got about 5 to 10 people on set watching you interact. You meet the person on the set if you don't know them previous. Like, hey, how you doing? All right, come on, let's get on in this position. It was so uncomfortable physically for me. I remember after that scene, I couldn't walk. Like I couldn't do no work. I told the agent I'm jacked up. Like I can't do it. I remember soaking in Epsom salt and just like, what is going on? But when I saw that check,
wow,
I said, well, you know what? You got to take a Tylenol, an aspirin, an Advil or something. You have to get with it, because it was the biggest amount of money I had ever seen before. And I had did it on set for maybe 2 hours, because you go through hair and makeup, like they doll you all up. It's so wonderful until it's time to do the do. And I saw the check. I was done after the first scene, but then when she gave me my check, I was like, well, maybe I ain't done. And then after talking to people, they was like, well, you should have told them what your drug of choice was, and they would have loosened you up. So the next scene, it was like a candy store, whatever you wanted, whether it was alcohol, whether it was pills, coke, meth, heroin. They had needles on set,
Needles on set.
Yeah, they had all kinds. They had dudes that were. I remember this warlock. He was a Satanist. So I'm saying, like, God protected me from so much. And when people are loose with their body and just laying with folks, soul ties are so real.
Absolutely.
And I had a soul tie with a warlock. He was a full Satanist in the bathroom doing a ritual before he came out to do a scene with me. It just
he was one of the stars, one of the porn stars.
Yeah, doing a ritual in the bathroom. Yeah, I seen girls who didn't want to be there, but they pimps was outside making them do it. It wasn't what I had always thought it was gonna be.
That's savage.
Yeah,
savagery going on. You see all of that behind, and then on top of that, you got to have this emotionless sex on cue.
And almost like this level of professionalism about just sex.
You got to be professional.
Because it's interesting, because I met a young lady that worked in porn. And I remember her telling me she was just one of the people that was just like in the background. She wasn't having sex. She was like on the production crew. And I remember hearing her tell me about this. Funny thing was, she actually lived in LA too. And I remember hearing this, and I remember thinking already when she told me that, in my mind, I'm thinking something about her's off. Like, you're not well. Because to be in that environment,
it's so desensitized.
For work, like on a day-to-day, this is how I make my money. Something in you have to be
off,
a little off, for you to be comfortable in this environment. Absolutely. Or even accept to be in this environment. Did you notice that everybody there, not even just the sex workers, but was everybody there, did they have a weird spirit about them?
Everybody was Looney Tune. Everybody was crazy.
I can see that.
Everybody was, it was so demonic. From the production to the porn stars, it was so heavy. It was so dark. Pornography alone is demonic. It is a portal, and it is a setup to kill the sanctity of a marriage and the sexual union between a husband and wife. It distorts a man's image of a woman. It distorts a woman's image of a man. And that's just for the viewer. So can you imagine the producer and the actual actors that are doing it? The stuff that I witnessed, I remember, and it's probably going to be graphic, but the stuff that I saw with people bleeding and they'll do anal scenes, and again, this is rough and aggressive. I seen a piece of their bone from their anus, like their anus, it fell out. I'm sorry, I know it was graphic.
No, you have bones, or I guess.
Yeah, like gristle or whatever it is, flesh falling out of their bodies, and yeah, it was bad. It was so traumatic.
I could only imagine.
And then you be like, the producer be like, here go a towel, wipe up, because we about to shoot in 5 minutes. Like, it heartless, and
you cattle pretty much.
Yeah, like I got a scene to do. Hurry up. And they renting the mansions and renting the locations and stuff like that. And so it's like, we got this mansion for 12 hours, and we like, hurry up. The girls crying and puking in the bathroom. I'm seeing people throwing up, and hey, come on, we got just so desensitized, so on a whole nother. It's another world. But as demonic and dark as it was, I got paid the most money I ever seen in my life. And she was right. When I met her in that strip club, she said, if you think you're making money now, you ain't seen nothing yet. She's right. I made the money, but what it cost me did not compare to the checks that were being written to me. It reminds me of the scripture that I always say in every interview, every chance I get: what profit is it to a man to gain the whole world and lose his soul? And that's exactly what was happening to me. My drug habit increased when I had mentioned earlier about me overdosing on ecstasy several times, 3 times. My depression, my drinking had increased. I remember I was in the industry at the time when the herpes and the HIV scare had came up. People were getting herpes and HIV, and you're supposed to get tested every 30 days. But what happens is, if you and I get tested, but then you're only supposed to be sleeping with your actors. But if you go down the street and sleep with Sarah and Becky and Tanisha infects you, you know what I'm saying? Then you come back to work with me, and now you're spreading it in the industry. So now the HIV had entered into the industry. So now I'm worried, like, am I going to get it? But yet still showing up the set.
Right.
Herpes it was a big outbreak, big herpes outbreak that hit the industry. I'm scared out of my mind, crying and praying. Had the audacity to be praying on set, Lord, please don't let me get nothing. Lord, please don't let nothing happen to me. And all this stuff. It was a lot. It was a lot. But she was right. I made the money. One of my best friends to this day, I had the privilege of baptizing her yesterday at our church. But we met in the porn industry. And I was the ghetto one. She was the bougie one. And her clientele was so different from mine. I'm used to just, regular people on the streets and in the clubs. And she knew the celebrities. And so she introduced me to celebrity clientele. So my livelihood had changed. Now I'm with rappers and football players and basketball players and mega preachers and all these, like, people that we listen to and we watch on TV are now booking me to come to their parties or having one-on-one sessions. And so the money increased even more. I was, traveling now. I was able to, I live the type of life, if you was my friend and I wanted to go on vacation for the weekend, you just meet me at the airport. I got us like bawling out of control and dying on the inside.
Okay, so let's talk about the powerful test. I'm so happy you are here with us, because it takes a hell of a person to make it through those things. It takes Jesus to make it through those things. So, okay, because it sounds like you super active with the porn. You're getting these checks, and it sounds like the friend that introduced you, is that considered escort services? Is there like a difference between prostitution and escort services when I guess you're dealing with a higher level of clientele?
It's still it's prostitution.
Okay.
I couldn't say prostitution for years.
Okay.
It don't look the same. So in my mind, and most people, they think of a prostitute, they think of what I was talking about, standing on the corner.
Streetwalker. Right.
When they think of an escort, that's when it's like, it's a different level. It's a different dynamic, but it's still prostitution at the end of the day, whether it's high class or not.
Okay. I was like, because prostitution not happening on IG.
Yeah.
The ladies now with these real nice IGs, you got dudes DMing them and
with
having them pretty
fans
much come over. OnlyFans.
That's prostitution.
It's all prostitution.
That's an excellent concern. So, I guess the question is, are there things that women do right now that if you asked them, are you a prostitute? They would say, absolutely not.
Yeah.
And so what are those things?
Anytime that there's a transaction or an exchange for anything sexual in return for anything of monetary gain, a bag, a car, a bill paid, groceries, if you're willing to exchange sex for something back, that is prostitution. I don't care if you're doing it on a low level or on a high level like me in porn, being in the porn industry. If you sleeping with Mr. Joe so you can get your light bill paid, if you sleeping with Tom to make sure you got groceries and gas, that's prostitution.
Now, what about the ladies who say, well, I'm not sleeping with him? They might not be sleeping with him, but they might be doing the late night phone calls. They might be, some women say, they get those things, they get their bills paid, and maybe they are sleeping with them, I don't know. But they may claim that I'm not sleeping with them.
Anything sexual, whether it's conversation, because phone sex is a thing too.
Right.
Anything sexual in exchange for monetary gain in any form is prostitution.
Wow.
It's prostitute, no matter how. And I know it's hard for them to say that. And hard to admit that because, again, like you said, it's so accepted now with the social media, the OnlyFans and all of those things. It's so accepted and it's so like, oh, it's not a bad thing. But no, it is. It really is. And I know it's hard for them. It's a hard pill to swallow, but
Right. You talk to some folks right now.
Yeah, it's a hard pill to swallow,
listen,
sis, but yeah.
We got 1,400, almost 1,500 people in the chat. So shout out to you. Right now, we are listening to Pastor Danielle's, amazing, powerful, literally unreal testimony. So, Pastor, I want you to continue to talk about this because you mentioned at these different levels where, you're advancing in this dark reality that money at these different stops, money was a major motivator. Mm-hmm. And I wanted to kind of get an idea, why was money your major motive? Was it giving you, a certain lifestyle that you just really admired? Was it getting you access to things that you really wanted? Or was it something a bit deeper behind your motivation for having money? Or was it just flat out, first it was survival and then it turned into, I just want to live a life of luxury? Like, why was money such a catalyst in these decisions that you was making?
I think in general, regardless to what anybody is in, money is the pool for anybody. Even if you work at McDonald's, if you're on the fry machine making $10 an hour, but they say, hey, I want you to work the register making $15 an hour. That's going to be the motivation. If you're on the register making $15 an hour and then they present a manager position at $22 an hour, it's the money that's going to pull you. You don't really want to do the work, but you want the money. And so I think when I saw the amount of money and, like you said, a life of luxury, survival, I had become used to it now. Because remember, I started this at 14. I'm now 18.
Right.
And so it just graduated. The saying is levels to this. So I had reached another level. And one thing about flesh, you can never feed it enough. Flesh is never satisfied.
Yeah.
And so no matter how much money I made, if there was an opportunity for more, just like somebody with a sex addiction, no matter how much sex you had, after a few hours, you done came down at about 9 o'clock, I can have some more sex because flesh can never be satisfied. It's always hungry. It's never full. And so for me, I'm now fully submerged in the devil's camp. And so, yeah, I saw a little money at 14 in the strip club when I was there for a minute. I saw a little money in the prostitution with the choir member. I saw a little money when I left her and went back to the club to strip and do prostitution. But I seen a whole little bit more money in the porn industry. Then saw a little bit more money when my clients became famous. And so it just became something that I just kept going after.
I want to ask this because this was a big part here. You said you started even servicing mega pastors.
Mm-hmm.
Did that change how you saw the church or just, leaders in those roles when you started seeing, pastors even, in that world?
I don't think it changed my perception on church. The problem is I think that we blame a perfect God for imperfect people. So what man does or what females do, what humans do, has nothing to do with God. God gave us something I call a blessing and a curse, and that's free will. It's a blessing to have free will, and it's a curse to have free will, because we can do whatever we want and we don't always make the right decisions. So when preachers were my clients, I didn't view God or the church in a negative way. I just viewed them. Like, okay, you ain't who you say you are. You're not who you present yourself to be. And so anything negative that I felt was towards that person, not to the church in general. And I wish somebody who is screaming church hurt that have left church because of your one experience with an imperfect person. We don't generalize a whole organization because of your one bad experience. We don't punish God because of your one bad experience with a not so great pastor or a not so great usher in the church. Now you just done with God and you're done with church in a whole because of one experience. How did God ain't got nothing to do with you over there with Deacon Dirty. God ain't got nothing to do with what Prophet Picklehead did. We got free will, and so I thank God that I had spiritual maturity to know how to separate the two.
What about, just in general, men?
I'm trying to figure out who the pastor is. Who was they got you under contract now? We need to bring this.
Hit the drum roll now.
It was multiple. It wasn't just one. Yeah, it was multiple.
Are they still pastors to this day?
Yes, famous ones.
Wow.
Yeah.
What, in general, okay, so because I know, we talked about how you feel about, church leadership, but in general, men who absolutely desire you, willing to pay thousands of dollars to spend some hours with you, maybe less than that, but then will turn around and publicly use scum of the earth. Have you reconciled that at all, or did you reconcile with that? Like, or what are your general thoughts about because I think that would probably be the average man. They gonna absolutely, shame you, but also try to slide with you.
Yeah, that is definitely a reality. Which is just like homosexual preachers that preach against homosexuality, but they gay on the low. You know what I'm saying? So that's just a reality. There are people who watch porn and have addictions to porn, but they'll condemn it in the pulpit. And there are people who would sleep with me right now today. If I say, let's go, they'd be ready to go. I couldn't even get it out. I couldn't even get it off my lips all the way before they pants is around their ankles. Okay.
Just after your testimony.
You hear me? And then we'll turn around and get into on social media, or they'll get in their pulpit and say, that is just, I just can't receive that. God can never use somebody that had went so low, so a lot of times what you condemn is what you play with. A lot of times what you condemn is what you play with.
I feel like that's all the time. I 1000% agree with you.
You hear me?
Yeah.
And so I think I'm just such a mature person, and I have thick skin that a lot of stuff rolls off my back. But that is a reality where there are some preachers, leaders, people watching, people who will come across my story. And once they find out, like, she did that, she was a prostitute, she was in the porn industry, anything demeaning, all these demeaning things that I got myself involved in on a public platform, they'll say, oh, that's so nasty, that's so low down, that's so degrading. But in a private sector, they'll be trying to see, because my testimony, and a lot of pastors don't allow me in their pulpit because my testimony exposes. And a lot of preachers are dealing with sexual immorality, immoral sins. And so they will shun me from coming to their pulpit because I don't want you to preach on what I play with. I don't want you to condemn what brings me comfort. I don't want you to send me, talk about the bad stuff, the behind the scenes of what I enjoy. And so there are a lot of leaders who would condemn what I do or don't, my peers don't really accept me because of where I came from. But in private, it would be a whole different story because I experienced that.
Oh, I can only, we probably got to talk about that in a second too.
Yeah.
So, okay. Powerful testimony. is like we got to take these little short breaks because it's a lot to digest.
It's a lot.
Let it breathe.
We got 1,500 people in the chat. If you're joining us right now, we got Danielle McCord. I mean, she's going crazy right now. Unreal testimony, taking us from the streets to the pulpit, and we still not just there yet. Mm-hmm. Pastor, you live in the high life. Mm-hmm. You got these high-end clients.
The low life.
Low life.
Right,
Come on
right,
here.
right.
Living
the low life. And you dealing with, all kinds of people,
yes.
getting you in rooms that you had never been in.
Right.
And, what is after that? After you getting this money, the porn, the escort services, what comes next?
Let me say this because a lot of people ask, well, you said that you saw a warlock doing a ritual. You saw girls crying. You saw people's flesh fall out. You saw STDs and drugs and abuse in the porn industry. Why didn't you get out? Why didn't you leave prostitution? Why didn't you leave the strip club when you saw the things and experienced the things? And when I was in the streets, I had been raped, I've been robbed, I've been followed, like all that type of stuff, followed home from clubs, all the things that you can think of that will happen to a girl in that life have happened to me. I had pimps chase me down in the streets and all kind of stuff. And the number one question I get is, why didn't you get out? So let me answer that. The reason why I kept going is because I didn't feel like there was anything else that I could do. I thought that, the saying, you can't turn a hoe into a housewife. I heard all of the remarks about no man will respect me and you'll never be nothing and all that. And so those words that were planted in my spirit, they grew. And I started to believe the lies of the enemy that this is all that I'm going to ever be able to do. I had no education at this point. I dropped out of high school in 10th grade. I've been doing this since I was 14 years old. Now I'm doing movies. I hear people tell me that you'll never be this, you'll never be that. Who will take you serious? This is the lowest you can go. And I believe that. So my mindset said, if I'm going to be a hoe, I'm going to be the best one at it. If I'm going to be in the sex industry, I'm going to give it my all, because what else is there for me to do? I didn't think that there was something else for me. I had no education. I had no work experience. So this is all I know from a child of 14 years old to now 18, 19. This is all I knew. And I had men that would demean me because, again, I met all kind of people, and some of them like you. They like you. They like your time. They like your presence. They want to spend time with you. And then when things would get serious and I'm thinking, okay, well, maybe I can move into a relationship, they'll shut me down with the what makes you think that I would be with a woman like you? And so it would make me feel like there's nothing else for me to do. So I became good at what I did. My exit plan was to just do it until my body gave out, until I was too old to do it, and then marry somebody that was financially stable. And even in my marriage, I'll still be a prostitute because I married for money. And that was there was no escape goal, because I didn't feel like there was any value or any worth outside of what I was. Okay. So now I'm 19 years old, celebrities, traveling, shopping, living however, I want. As a result of my lifestyle, men would fly me out all the time. There was this one particular man who contacted me online, and he flew me on a one-way ticket from Los Angeles to JFK. And I'm high. I ain't paying no attention. I only got a one-way ticket. I'm out of my mind anyway. He flew me from LA to New York. And this man, he wined and dined me for like the first couple of days. Everything he told me online was a lie. From the car he drove to the house he lived in, it was a lie. But he had a little money on him from wherever, and he took me out. We went shopping. We got drugs. We did our thing. We ended up going to a club this particular night in Manhattan. I'm there as a prostitute, so this is work for me. For him, it was something a little different. I guess in his mind, you my lady. For me, I'm I'm gonna get as much money as I can while I'm in New York.
Right.
Yeah, my first time in New York, I'm finna go hit every borough and get me $1, you know.
You are networking.
I'm networking. I'm networking. And so we end up going to a club, and he goes to the bathroom. I start talking to another gentleman because I'm here for work. This is not personal. He comes out of the bathroom. He sees me talking to this gentleman, and it infuriated him. He snatches me out of the club, throws me in his car, and he said something to me that shook me to my core. Now, mind you, Ryan, I just told you, being in the streets, I've had pimps chase me. I've had dudes do all kind of stuff. I've been raped. I've been jumped. I've been through a lot. But when he said this to me, I knew that something had changed. He said, "You're not going to leave here." And when he said it to me, it was just like, all right, I'm in trouble now. So he took me to a house. I'm from LA. We don't got basements. He took me to this house, and it had a basement. I had never seen a basement before. And it looked like a dungeon. And it was a room in the basement. And it looked like something out of a horror movie. And he began to beat me. He raped me. He was a man from the island, so he was into voodoo. He started chanting over me. And he kept me locked up in this basement. I was only supposed to be in New York for like 3 days. I was in this basement for almost 3 weeks. Wow. And for 3 weeks, I was being beaten. I was being raped. I was being put spells on and all kind of stuff. And he told me that he was going to kill me, and I believed him. I heard it before. I've been in situations before. But this time, when they say your life flashes before your eyes, it does, in a sense. Like, you get this eerie feeling like this is it. And I just knew after his enjoyment of the torture, because some people get off on, torturing you and stuff like that. I said, once he gets over the fantasy or the enjoyment of torturing me, the next step would be for him to kill me. Because even the setup looks like he had done this before. And because, going back to what we said, I stayed in church even though I lived the life that I lived. And I'm glad I did, because even though I was a prostitute, even though I was a stripper, even though I was in the porn industry and on drugs and selling dope and all that, I'm glad I went to church, because there were seeds that were being planted in me. And while I was in this man's basement, something in me said, pray. And I prayed like I never prayed before. And I said, Lord, if you get me out of this, I'll change my life for you. Just don't let me die. And I said that before. And I'm sure a lot of people will say that when they get in a situation. He said, God, get me out. God gets us out. And we return back to it, which I have done many a times. But I knew this time that had I made it out of this basement, I was done. I said that prayer. And 3 days later, his friend came down the stairs. I thought it was him. He came down the stairs of the basement looking for the guy, and he found me. And when he opened up the door and saw me and saw the condition that I was in, mind you, this is a 3-week span.
What condition were you in, by the way?
I looked like somebody crazy. I had been beaten. I'd been raped. I had, barely fed. I just looked like somebody out of my mind.
Yeah.
An abused person. And so he looked like he saw a ghost. This your partner. And then you go to his house, and then you see me in the closet. You gonna be like, what's going on? You scared. Like, wait, and this was his friend. So he's looking like, what is going on? So I don't know if he's part of the plan. I don't know if he witnessed. I don't know what's going on. I just tell the man what's happening and if he can help me. And he did. He helped me get out the basement. Everybody that knows about the tri-state area, New York, Connecticut, New Jersey are all connected. I knew somebody in Jersey. So all I needed him to do was get me from New York to Jersey, which I did. Friend of mine there got me a one-way ticket back to LA. And that was my breaking point. That was my out. That was my exodus. Most people get saved and delivered at a revival, a conference, or a Sunday morning at the altar. I got saved and delivered in a New York basement, because I had made a vow to God. if you save me, I'll change my life. When I got back to LA, that's exactly what I did.
Man, what irony, like the lowest place of your life was in the basement, the lowest place of a home, the basement.
Literally, rock bottom.
Rock bottom of a home, probably in one of the most unlikely, situations that you would actually live and survive. You made it out of that. And, do you feel that was a necessary part of your life? Do you feel like that you needed it to be that low and it to get to that condition of hell for you to finally get out of it? Because I can imagine if the money was just flowing, and you could. It's the sad truth is you could have probably spent the rest of your life, in that industry. But it's kind of, it's a weird question because
no, it's not. It had to happen, because had it not happened, I would have continued to go. Ironically, the next stop after New York was Atlanta. It was Atlanta. And again, I had been in situations before, pimps, girls being robbed, being raped. I remember a client had gave me something and I blacked out and I woke up with men standing all over me. I don't know what they did to me. So I had been in very dangerous situations, and I chill for a few days. I chill for a few weeks and then I go right back. But I believe God had to turn the fire up a notch to make sure, like, look, this right here, you're going to make a decision that you're going to be done or you're going to die in it. And had that not been so extreme, I would have just chilled for a few days. And then I would have made my way to my next city, my next client, and kept on going. And who knows what my story would have been then if I would have had a story to tell. And so I do believe it had to get that dark and that low for me to finally say I'm done.
Let me ask you this, because I'm just kind of thinking about some of the things that we talked about even on Hardly in Love, our new dating show. And it was one conversation we was having about sexual history. And when it came to the conversation about, a woman at some point, indulging in a casual or promiscuous lifestyle, a lot of the women that we had on the singles that we had on the panel would, their sentiments was, hey, sometimes things happen, you live and you learn, everybody can change,
Absolutely.
and, a guy shouldn't be really concerned about a woman's, past sexual history, right? Which I understand. Now, you got on your side of things, I would say it was a more professional route, but still indulging in casual and promiscuous lifestyle.
Yeah. I just got paid for it.
Just got paid for it. Now, I think, I don't know for sure, but I think those same exact women will look at your situation and say, no, that's not my situation. She chose that lifestyle. What would you say to those women who have a hard line in their mind that what you did is completely from their equally promiscuous lifestyle, but not as a profession?
Well, I was just a little smarter, sis. I got a coin for it. You know what I'm saying? I must be a little smarter, sis. If you just laying it low and spreading it wide for free, you know what I'm saying? I got a couple of bills paid, I created a lifestyle out of it, and it's wrong on both ends. But I had walked away with this demonic sense of confidence, like, well, at least I got paid. At least I, walked away with a livelihood for it versus just being ran through with nothing to, that my old folks used to say, a wet poom poom in a dry pocket. They don't go together. You just land with everybody, Tom, Dick, and Harry, and you don't know how you gonna pay your rent. It's crazy to me. Not that I endorse prostitution, but if you sleeping with everybody and you don't think that you on the same level as me because I chose to get paid to do it, it's crazy. A man gonna look at you and me in with the same eye. They gonna look at you being a free and me being a paid and still see us in the same light.
Yeah.
So just because you didn't take money for it does not erase the fact that it still brings that negative stigma and the consequences that come with it.
And now you had to look. You even said like you started believing these things that people was pouring into you. Nobody would want you.
Right.
You can't turn a hoe into a housewife. And you literally are married now for how long?
12 years in March.
Married for 12 years.
Incredible.
So I want to ask about this.
12 years in March.
Because I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm gonna be completely honest with you. If a woman walks up to me and says, "Ty, I was in porn," I'm like, enough said. There's not a level of persuasion or deliverance.
Right. You didn't want to get to know her.
She can put on to me personally, but obviously I know every man is not like me. Obviously, you met your husband, so I want to talk about that. Because
wait, hold up, swole up. Let's back up. What you mean? Wait, hold up. What you mean? No level of deliverance and no level of change.
Because I'm and we all have places where we judgment. That's just where I can be honestly say I'm judgmental.
Okay.
I'm judgmental, and listen, I'm fighting my whore past, right? And still,
so it's okay for you, but it ain't okay for her.
It's not okay for me.
Okay.
I acknowledge that it's not okay for me.
But a woman will still choose you because even though that was your past.
I 100%, and it's gonna be some women that don't.
I doubt it.
That is okay.
I doubt it.
And no, you're right. I think in our culture, it's probably a little bit more culturally acceptable, right? 100%. But we all have our biases in these different areas, right? But my whole point to you is I want to talk to that, because when you talk about the deliverance and really the renewing of your mind that had to take place and how you saw men, right? To think about actually wanting to now have a long-term healthy relationship, going back, because we started at your pops, right? I don't think there was any man, and correct me if on this, as I go into my next question, was there any man that you ever could confide in, even if it was in the church, that would legitly pour into you or love on you without wanting sex? Have you ever had that?
One man, my bishop, that died in 2020.
Okay.
He was the one man in my life that wasn't a pervert. He was the one man in my life who didn't judge me. He was the one man in my life that spoke life into me, and told me who I was going to be before I knew who I was going to be. So God allowed me to be under my bishop for 10 years, from 2010 to 2020 when he passed.
This after you left the game, your bishop afterwards?
Afterwards, yeah.
Okay.
Afterwards, because it was pastors. After that, I tried to join churches and stuff, and that didn't. I told them where I came from and what I did. Oh, that didn't go well, But once I met him, he loved on me like a daughter, and he was a shepherd to me as sheep. So. And
so even before that, the men. Did you try to confide in men in the church? And what was that experience like?
Oh, it was horrible. I'll never forget. And I think I remember it was a pastor and who knew my story, and I was fresh out because I got out in 2008, and it's now 2009. And I'm searching for God. I'm deep in God now. I'm trying to, navigate this holiness and go through deliverance and healing. Yeah. And I would tell my story to certain people. And it was this one pastor in particular that I had confided in, and he had said, hey, I got some materials for you to study and read. And I was like, okay. And we went to lunch, and he had like Bible breakdowns and all these study books and all this stuff. And he picked me up. We had lunch. Everything was cool. He takes me back to my house. We're in front of my house. And he said, well, all right, we're finna go, but let me pray for you. I said, okay. Now, most of the time when you pray, you hold hands and close your eyes. Now, my eyes closed. My head is bowed. I'm holding hands with this man, the pastor. And while he praying, he kissed me in my mouth. And so that was the type of... I had men, when I first started coming out with the testimony, I had pastors, because I was booked and busy when it first hit about From Porn to the Pulpit. People were bringing me in to tell my story. And I remember I was talking this before I had an assistant and armor bearers and all that type of stuff. So they would call me or email me directly. And I remember one pastor was like, yeah, I can't wait to get you out here. Your story's amazing. Da-da-da. And everything sounded good. But it's like God exposed him at the end of the call. He was like, yeah. And I can't wait for you to come, because by the way, you were my favorite porn star.
What?
Oh my God.
Do you think I said cancel that ticket, bro? Like it just was. It was a journey. Now, for those who are weak in their faith, that would have made them say, I'm done. You know what I'm saying? I'm done. I'm trying to be in church and you're reminding me or trying to bring me back to what I just came out of. And you're a man of the cloth. Even the women in the church were so nasty to me. They were so mean to me. They treated me like filth. And if I didn't have a strong relationship with God, that would have broke me. But it didn't. I'm still here. Hey, amen.
So shout out to, your bishop who was able to, display that for you.
Yeah.
But I can imagine, having those sexual experiences.
Mm-hmm.
Did you have soul ties, or did you feel that, because we know, when people describe soul ties, having the thoughts of other men, the spirit that may have been transferred from different men.
Mm-hmm.
Did you feel that you specifically had a struggle in that area of deliverance, or was that a big part that you had to work on?
No, that wasn't a big part, but I did have to go through deliverance, from soul ties. Soul ties are real, whether you're just doing it from a one night stand, a prostitution, your girlfriend or whoever, your wife, your husband. Soul ties are real. When the moment that you lay with somebody, you become one soul. So imagine becoming one soul with 100 people. Imagine coming one soul with 500 people. Imagine becoming one soul with 10 people. You need to go to a deliverance ministry, not just no ministry that don't believe in casting out demons and don't believe in all of that. No, you need to go to however deep your sin is. You need to find you a ministry that knows how to cast out demons, know how to work spiritual warfare, deal with healing. And so I needed to go through deliverance, which I did. I went to a deliverance ministry. And deliverance is hard. Deliverance is painful. Deliverance is uncomfortable. I felt like God was breaking me down to build me back up. I felt like he was taking a chisel and just, chiseling away all of that old filth off of me. And I had to learn, well, they were saying it. Then I had to learn talking about severing soul ties and renouncing and denouncing stuff and coming out of agreement with people, even if you didn't know their name. Because for most people, they know the names of the people they slept with. Before a prostitute, you don't know them people, so even going back to even the ones that I don't know their name, everybody that I laid with illegally, God, I pray that you sever the tie. So yes, I went through deliverance in that standpoint, but I never was so sexually promiscuous. See, it was money for me. It wasn't a fetish for me. I could care less about the sex. You know what I'm saying? I wanted the money. So coming out of that, it wasn't like, oh, I can't be with one person because I'm yearning 10 other dudes. It wasn't like that. My mindset on how I viewed men had to change. That's where I needed deliverance. That's where I needed help, because for me, every man was the boogeyman. For me, every man was a whore. For me, every man was abusive. Every man was a liar, or they was this or that. You know what I'm saying? So I had to get to the understanding that all men are not the same. That was my struggle, not the sex.
It's thank you for clarity on that. And, I can imagine when you met your husband, we have this thing about, you got to be healed before you go out and get out there and be dating, right?
Yeah.
I can imagine when you met your husband, this is still a process. It's a long process.
Oh, yeah.
You was living way longer in that lifestyle prior to you in deliverance.
Absolutely.
So at what point do you feel like, especially coming out of promiscuity, do we need, what is the level of healed for us to now establish a healthy relationship? Like, what is healthy for now? Okay, now I'm ready for me to now put myself out there and start really building with somebody at this point in my process.
So I was abstinent for almost 2 years before I met my husband. So because the last person I was with was a mega preacher, and I ended up getting pregnant by this mega preacher. And I thought now that I was in God and in church and I had changed my life and I was dating a preacher, that I was going to be somebody's first lady and we was going to do ministry and love God together. But we were having sex and I got pregnant and he sent me abortion money. And that turned me off. The pastor sent me the abortion money. I never had an abortion. I had a miscarriage. But I took that money though. I did. I had a good little run too. I sure did. I kept it. Thank you. And so after that, I was so turned off. I said, I'm not ready. And I became abstinent for almost 2 years. I think it was like a year and 9 months or something like that before I met my husband. And I didn't even know I desired marriage, but I didn't know it was going to happen that fast. Ladies, don't let no man tell you that they got to be with you 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 years before they ready to marry you. I met my husband in January. We went out in March. He proposed to me in August. We were married the next March. And that was 12 years ago. Wow. But I think that after I went through a season of by myself and getting healed and getting delivered and allowing God to break down all this negative, these negative images that I had towards the opposite sex and heal me from what my daddy did and heal me from the experiences that I had. When I met him, he was total opposite of what I had experienced and how he got me. Cause he really wasn't on my radar like that. But how he got me was he read my book. Cause my husband's older than me and he had daughters that were older. And he said, my daughters need to hear your story. And he bought a book from me and he ended up reading the book before he gave it to his daughters. And he came back to me and said, I read your book and I just want to show you that all men aren't the same. I want to show you that all men, because from the beginning of your book to the end, it was just always something tragic between you and a male counterpart. I want to show you that every man won't handle you like that. And we went out that night. We've been together ever since, but I think I was ready. Now, even in that, and I think him and I later on probably will write a book and do a marriage ministry, because even in that, in my marriage, some residue started coming back up.
I can only imagine.
Yeah. Some residue from the past, how I thought, how I reacted, how I'm hood, that submission and you make me mad. I think I can go do what I want to do. Like a lot of stuff had to be reversed even early on in my marriage. I made a lot of mistakes in the early part of my marriage because the mindset for me wasn't all the way delivered. Now, how I viewed men started to change, but there were still some things that God was working on me in the beginning. But shout out to my man because he stuck through a lot of things. He loved me in my brokenness. So here we are.
Wow.
Now I know now you look back and to help other people that was in similar situations. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And if I'm not mistaken, I think you even visit some clubs and some
and do.
Okay, you do. Okay,
I saw the video on that.
Okay,
that's incredible.
And you go in there to help them pull themselves out the
go
depths.
in. Yeah, there are a lot of churches that have a problem with that. A lot of leaders had a problem with me and in my outreach technique, in my evangelism in the strip club, because some people feel like you can stand in the parking lot and pray, and that's what you can do. Right. But my assignment ain't your assignment. It may work for you to catch a girl in the parking lot, but for me, God told me to go in and throw ones, because money talks. Remember, money is the motivation in that arena. So if I go in there with a Bible, she ain't gonna talk to me. But if I go in there speaking her language to get her attention, then I can maneuver to my Jesus. You understand what I'm saying? So a lot of people have issues with how me and my team will go into the strip clubs. I'll get a whole stack of ones. I sure do it. And I'll throw it to who I feel like, okay, I'm talking to her right now. I'll throw the ones, or I'll have it sitting on the table and she'll come up there. You want to dance? I don't want to dance, but you can have this and just sit here and talk to me. And that one conversation, little cinnamon, little apple bottoms, little chocolate, whatever her name is, she's sitting in that corner in her two-piece crying her eyes out, talking about where your church at? This helped me. Nobody came in the church. Nobody came in the strip club to speak life into me. I said, I became who I wanted somebody to be for me. I wanted a Danielle to walk in the strip club and tell me that I'm more than this. I wanted a Danielle to come on the porn set and tell me, baby, you ain't got to do this, because I heard so much of what I wasn't going to be. I needed somebody to tell me what I could be.
Wow.
And they never came. So now that I'm in this position, I go to the girls. I meet them where they're at. I speak their language so then they can speak mine.
I can understand why it would be hard for somebody to, hard for them to see that and be receptive of that. But
because I see the chat right now. They're like, oh no.
Let me say it for the chat. Oh no. When God called me, it wasn't a conference call. Yeah. So whatever your assignment is, let's say God gives you an assignment to speak to men in prison. That ain't what he called me to do. So I can't tell you why you going there talking to murderers and rapists and people that killed their family and stuff. How can you find compassion for a man that's raping 12-year-olds and 3-year-olds and a man that it's a man on something going viral right now with an older man who had raped and impregnated his 12-year-old niece, and then he killed her because she was pregnant. And you tell me God will tell you to go and minister to a man like that? There are some people who will say, how could you find any compassion towards those folks? But they don't know the assignment that God gave you. So I may not understand it, but it ain't for me to understand. So y'all in the chat, I can't see you right now. It ain't for you to understand my assignment. I'm called to the rejects. I'm called to those who are in that lifestyle, and I'm from that lifestyle. Nobody could have came into no strip club with no Bible and got my attention. They would have had to come talking some money just for me to even give 2 minutes of my time. And so because I understand that, I move a certain way. If you ain't never been a stripper, a prostitute, or in the porn industry, or a preacher, then you can't understand the assignment and how to move.
You know, it makes sense because to everybody in that world, the drug game, prostitution, money is really the idol.
It is.
Money. Yeah. So like, it makes sense if you're not going to present what is most important, what's literally the reason that they're in this space in the first place, you won't be able to get the time, like you said, the time and attention, because you need their attention for a minute to be able to evangelize.
You need their attention.
You got to catch people in action. It's so crazy because it made me think about when we was, just going back, this is when we were still in dating mode, having these dating shows, right? And, I was still out there. So, Magic City.
We talking about like a couple years back?
Yeah, a couple years back. So Magic City is one of my favorite places. I didn't go all the time, but when I think about when people were trying to figure out where to go, I'm like, yo, just get a section of Magic City, sitting aside the stage, 2 bottles, 1,500, we good, right? So it was actually a time where I was at Magic City, having a great time, and this girl walks up to me, and she's like, yo, you got a podcast, and it's the like what you call it, the waitress, the lady, the
bottle girl,
yeah. So we talking about the show. She's like, yo, I love when y'all talk about dating, and she's like, I'm gonna bring some girls over here. So all my friends having a good time, and I'm literally talking to the bottle girl and a couple of strippers about the show. Now at the time, I think it was like Finesse had his show going on at the same time. Okay. And I think one of them may have been on one of his shows. So we was talking about, they wanted to get on the show. I'm like, nah, it's not really that kind of show. You know what I mean? You can't get on the show. But at that time, we had a dating show coming up, like one of these white psych dating shows. Yeah. So I'm like, man, you know what? You can't get on Hardly Initiated, but we need some girls to get on this dating show. This like blind dating show. It's like this new concept that was put together a couple years ago. So I invited the girls to come. One of the girls actually showed up for the dating show. Wow. Yeah, and we had a good time. Like, it was a dating show. We had a good time. Never put out these episodes, though, by the way.
Never put them out.
Never put them out. Yeah. Wow. We did like 5 episodes. I think we spent lots of money on doing this thing. Never, like, we was like on the precipice of doing the white site dating shows, but just never put it out because we tried one and it just didn't go well on the channel. Right. But I still had the girl's number. So, I call all the girls, tell them thank you for being on the show, just like I hit up all the dudes. And, she said something back and forth, no big deal. Now, a couple months later, I went back to Magic City. This was like right after Thanksgiving. Okay. And, I had interactions with the woman the first time I met her, had interactions when she was basically working for us. And then I'm having interactions with her again at Magic City, like in the club. And we're just having a conversation. She's talking. I'm not pressed. I'm in the strip club. I'm not pressed. I'm just having a good time. Like, some ass shaking going on and stuff like that. But I'm not pressed. I'm just cool. Yeah. But we having a conversation, and she literally says, she's like, I asked her. I'm like, yo, what? Like, I can't believe you in here. It's like Thanksgiving was over. Like, what did you do for Thanksgiving? And she's just like, oh, I didn't really do nothing. I just kind of stayed at the house. And I was not very serious. I was, was intoxicated this time. But I was joking, but I was kind of serious. I kind of wasn't. And I was like, man, you should have just came over to my house for Thanksgiving. Man, when I tell you, it stopped her in her tracks. Like, I could see tears coming to this girl's eyes. And even what I said, I felt bad for saying it because I was BSing. I'm just having a good time, But at the same time, it was like, it really just brought it kind of it really changed my night there. Because at this point, I'm like, what the hell am I doing in the strip club?
Yeah.
Like, this girl about to really cry.
It's distressed women walking around.
And it was like the first time I really realized that. Like how on the edge of emotion she was by a simple invite of somebody that she just didn't really see. Because she had experience with us working. And we professional with these women. Like, we taking care of them. We make sure they're good. I'm making sure they travel cover. Everything is professional. There's no sexual innuendos. Right. There's nothing like that. So she seen me in that light. And I think when I came there, she had this level of comfort. And then to kind of see how we operate, I think the invite, she really took that very seriously. Yeah. And she started, like, tears started to come to her eyes. And then so when you talk about going actually in the strip club and catching these women where they at, like that woman at that time, and that wasn't on me though. Because when I even think about that, and I've told Tyshawn this story a couple times, when I even think about that, man, I was like, I wish I wasn't there to be in debauchery. I wish I was there with a secret coded message, like, got one. Let's get you up out of here because it's clearly something going on with you.
She ready. She ready.
She was ready.
She ready for something else.
Right. She was ready for you. You know what I mean? Not me BSing about coming to my house for Thanksgiving. And so when you say that, like, I know it's hard for people to understand that, but because of that experience I had, I truly believe that you can walk into these places in the midst of business and catch you one or two and help them completely change their life.
It's funny you say that Magic City was your favorite place because that's like one of the main places that I go to minister to the girls is what it is. I'm not interested in no lap dance, no table dance, or none of that. I'm interested in your soul. And for those who don't understand it or don't get it, Jesus went to the pit. He went to the uttermost and the guttermost for a lot of people. And so what makes you think that they are not worthy to have one of God's messengers, one of God's mouthpiece to come into the darkness to expose his light? I don't like judgmental people. See, I'm a different type of preacher. You know, I'll get with you. You know what I'm saying? I'm hood and holy. So I hate when people are loud and wrong. You know what I'm saying? Like they're worth going for me to go in there while they're in their lowest state, high, drunk, ready to sell their body, and then hear a message from God that I love you. While you in the midst of shaking your tail, I love you. You somebody. Look what God did for me. He can do it for you. You don't think that they worthy enough for them to be met in their sin, in their pit? Man, miss me with that.
I'm with you, and I'm just thinking about, because everything you're saying is very polarizing, because I really do think a lot of people, women in the same, living very promiscuous lifestyle, think they're completely different from, you know, the experience that you had. Yeah. And I think it's women in clubs right now that they're like, I'll never do that. I'll never sell my body. They stripping. They say, I'll never sell my body. They bottle girl saying, I'll never strip. They go into the clubs all the time saying, I'll never be a bottle girl. You know, so I do want to address those women. But first, do you think that there are any other, or just what other lines of work that you think are detrimental to a woman? Like, or help me with this question. Like,
yeah, I understand what you're saying. Like, what work is pretty much dangerous?
Yeah, and unprotected, because certain ones, like off the top of my mind, I think women driving Uber is very dangerous. I think that is not quite working in a club, but I think it's close to it.
Yeah, but a lot of people lost their lives with that.
And just you're exposed to creepy men in private, intimate situations. Yeah. And for example, in Uber specifically, I think that's one of the unprotected. And then I'm gonna let you, give us some examples that you might think. But with me specifically, I think about these women, especially the ones that driving at night. You got these intoxicated men, these different creepy men. Sometimes, not all of them. I ride Uber at night too, but just a lot of them. Yeah. Then it's intimate situations in a car setting, and they get, exposed to sexual offers and advances all the time. And then I think at some point you get exposed to it, but you keep doing it. Of course, those creepy guys, like, no, bad star, get out of my car, but I think you get exposed to it so much, it only takes the right guy with the right package to make that same sexual advance. And all of a sudden, you might be doing something with that person, or you might not do it that night, but you get the phone number, and then that leads to something. So I think it's more than just working in the clubs that overexposes women to sex and having these unsafe, environments to potentially lead to a promiscuous lifestyle. So is it any other ones that you can think of, that career paths that can lead women to a promiscuous lifestyle?
Absolutely. But you know what? I want to tread lightly because there's some people that are like, well, I got to make a living. You know, I have to do it. I got to do this. And I'm not I'm not laying on my back, but you're saying that it can open up the door to that.
I think so.
It's really any job that you're working with the opposite sex, really, right? But anything that you're dealing with the public. Because there's one thing when you go into a post office and you got your coworkers, or you go into a hospital, you got your coworkers. But like you said, when you're dealing with uncovered strangers, like even with the young lady at the security gate, she's just standing there. She ain't probably got no gun or nothing. Anything like that, men coming in and going and stuff like that. I think anything that's uncovered, where you're not confined in a building with security and these are your everyday coworkers, you're opening yourself up to strangers and the public. I think any form of work, whether it's Uber, whether it's bartending, whether even as a waitress in a restaurant, you know what I'm saying? People sitting up there because some people don't like to go to the bar. Some people like to get drunk at their table with their meal, and they'll watch you while you finish and they'll be waiting for you. So anything that deals with the public can be a point of danger.
I would also add any environment, like we spoke about prior, where substance abuse is just a part of the environment.
Yeah.
So they drinking.
That's the goal of the environment.
They smoking. It's going down in there. Dangerous.
Yeah.
Dangerous for the men involved in it too. I mean, all of that.
It go both ways.
All of that. It's very, very, very dangerous. I just have a special concern for women.
Yeah.
In general, because unfortunately, man, I've heard a lot of women that have said what you said. Like they truly have lived an entire life not having one man that wants something that is willing to pour into them without expecting sex in return.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Men, we have a very different experience. Mm-hmm. You know, like it's easier for me to find a brother that I can disciple or be a mentor for whatever reason, and he not expect sex, right? Even if he's dark, like even if it's the dope boy on the block, like he will still give me some game and probably pull me into darkness, but he ain't gonna expect sex from me.
Right,
women have this weird situation where men actually want their bodies.
Yeah.
And even when they try to go to spaces that should be safe, even the men in their families, the men in their families is horrible. So they, women are even more unprotected in this way. So I have a very special, empathy for ladies, in that way. Right. And y'all be patient because we're gonna try to open up the phone line. First of all, you got to make sure you got to let me know if the phone lines are good. I know we're having issues. Yeah. So you got to give me the thumbs up.
You got to get that disclaimer. We're not telling you not to go out and get money. Just go ahead and quit your job.
No,
nothing of the sort.
Don't do that.
But I do think it's just certain,
just to be aware.
Just to be aware. Just to be aware of, man. And it's and if you talk to the ladies, some of these ladies that's experienced, not all of them. If you talk to the ones that are doing a late night drive or the house cleaning, like they got these gigs where they do house cleaning, then guys' houses.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like those types of things that they can lead. So you protect yourself, but then also I think it's important to find other alternatives before one thing can potentially lead to another. Yeah,
absolutely. And what we got to do, by the way, just so you know, this entire testimony, this entire story, is it in the From Porn to the Pulpit? Is it in the book?
It's detailed in the book too. Like, we can only say so much.
Too high for TV, right?
Yeah, but the book is very, I won't say graphic, but it's very detailed. It's very, and I wrote it straight out the porn industry. So it's like, it's very detailed. I didn't hold back. And it's going to help somebody who feels like, or somebody that knows somebody that has a similar story to mine. If it's not you particularly, maybe a young Danielle, maybe somebody in your family or have a friend, a coworker, somebody in your neighborhood who is going down the same path that I was.
Yeah.
This book is not for the saint, it's for the sinner. Yeah, I got 3. I got one for the church preaching in pain. I got one for women that's dealing with infertility called barren. But this is not for church people. This is for the sinner, to give them hope. This is to give them light, to say, hey, I'm reading her story, but I see my story in her story. And then there's light at the end of the tunnel in this book. It starts off dark. First page comes out swinging. But when you hear most stories like mine, it ends in tragedy. But for whatever reason, God saw something in me to turn my tragedy into triumph, and to go on platforms like this to tell somebody else that if he did it for me, he's able to do it for you. And excuse me for wanting to go back to the whole strip club thing. It's some people who wouldn't care about you walking into a jailhouse, right? Some people wouldn't care about you walking in a crack house. But you got a problem with somebody walking into a strip house unless it was your daughter. Think about if it was your mama that was swinging from the pole and God sent somebody like me to go in there and tell them that their life can be something else. Thinking about if it's your niece, your granddaughter, your sister. You would pray that somebody would come in there and plant a seed in her life. And so whether you agree or not, it's working. Now clock that. So.
Right. Listen, I support you. We got to get them queens saved.
No, let me tell you, that's a unique work. Everybody not built for that.
No.
Everybody don't have the experience to speak to that. Like, you can speak to a part of a woman in that lifestyle that these saints in the chat can't speak to.
No.
They can, in fact, they'll be disgusted with her, probably speak further, death on her life or push her further away
from God.
Blame her for their man problem.
100%. So everybody not built.
No.
Everybody not built, for this line of work. It's even, it's funny, like, and everybody has their biases too. That's why I said, when I said the things I the way I feel, and it's because I'm a man. Like, trust me, I know ladies that when they understand or see a man who's been a whore, they just, he's this, he's that, he ain't nothing but this, he ain't. But again, because I've had that, I can speak to him like, listen, I have a different empathy for a brother that's experienced these things. I probably know some things he's seen growing up.
Right.
I probably know how he had to find comfort by doing certain things. I probably know he probably experienced a bit of loneliness and deals with this. So I can speak. The things that we've been to, we have this a unique power and ability to speak to other people that are going through these things. And, a lot of the people that may not have dealt with this sin in particular, like this, again, like Ryan said, they might have dealt with it, but in a different way, and they deem it's a little prettier.
Right.
But all of a sudden, everybody kind of lifting their eyebrows at it and condemning. But either way, I want to get the people involved in this conversation. Lionel, is it possible for us to get the Zoom?
The chat is so many different.
It's possible?
Yeah,
so we got to test
it.
We having some little things going on with the Zoom tonight. So we're gonna drop. Can we drop the link? In the description in the chat. We're gonna drop the link
on the live stream chat thing.
Yeah, we're gonna drop the link in the chat and we're gonna bring it up here. Be patient with us because there's something going on funny with Zoom tonight.
Yeah, some technical difficulties. So best. It may be just audio, but I still want to bring. And listen, if you don't get straight to the point, or you get a little out of line, we're gonna cut you off. We're gonna go to the next.
So let me give y'all the do's and don'ts.
Yeah, tread lightly.
Yeah.
Be brief and be brilliant on here tonight. I want you to come up here. You give me your age, your name, your age, your location, and we're going to get into your question. And y'all got to respect our guests here on Hardly Initiated, so y'all better not get crazy.
Oh, and it never gets crazy, but see, the thing is, we can't see people this time, I don't think.
Okay.
But, your testimony is polarized because I think is certain ladies, it might be abrasive too, you know what I mean? And then it's men too, because a lot of men, they don't trust women. They don't trust women. So when you hear about a woman who was a professional at getting what she needs to get, the transactions from a man, even a Christian man, maybe he's a hypocrite, I don't know, but he's gonna have serious issue with you changing your life and you presenting yourself completely different. Yeah, it's crazy.
Oh, well, he got an issue for real.
He got an issue.
You got to, anytime
not
you
the
have
issues,
an issue.
but just
not the initiative. Anybody that has, whether it's porn, whether it is drugs, whether it's witchcraft, whether it's whatever it is, if you have a problem with God snatching somebody out of a pit, then there's something deep, dark within your own self. You got to check the man in the mirror where you would have an issue with God changing somebody, pulling them out of darkness, pulling them out of sin and transforming their life into something else. Something is wrong with you. Yeah, I don't see, I love to hear testimonies. It may not have been as deep as mine. It could be something even like you said, I was a playboy. I was out there. Now I'm 8-9 months into abstinence. That is a big thing. That's a testimony.
Well, let me give myself a hand clap. Myself a little hand clap real quick.
I love to hear stories of transformation. Because it's one thing to read about deliverance. It's another thing to see it.
I completely agree with that.
Yeah.
I completely
It's
agree with
one
that.
thing to read about deliverance. It's another thing to see it.
Amen.
Yeah, they be ready to hate on us. They be ready for us to fall.
Oh, they ready.
We
That's
make
why
some
God
mistakes.
They
you know what I
praying
mean?
on it. They praying on
we
that.
really live this life though. We
That's
gonna
why
be
God
like, "I
prepared
knew
the
it!"
table for y'all.
right.
Thank
Lana,
you
where
so
we at?
much.
Do we got people joining in the chat or what? We got a lot.
Wow.
Of people.
Okay.
They
So we
wanna
got.
talk.
All right. So hold on. Wait. So keep in mind, I want everybody to be patient because we getting this thing right. I hear somebody doing yo's in the back. All right. So we gonna bring you up and tell you when to be a part of it. So let me know who we got first, Lano. And you got it.
Oh,
And
so they
guys,
can't
by the
turn
way,
the camera on.
everybody keep your
Oh, so-
cameras turned on in the back. Okay, everybody turn your cameras on in the back.
Yeah.
That's how we gonna that's how we gonna know. We gonna pick you up. So Delano's gonna look at your camera, and then we will pick you up, and we will then know who we bringing on the platform. Okay, so if you look sketchy, all right, if you're looking sketchy, you might not make it up here. So I want you to go ahead and make sure y'all turn them joints on. Okay.
So turn your cameras on. We might not be able to see it on the live stream,
Yes.
but we can see it in the back. So
But
turn your cameras
we
on.
will hear. But what I want to do right before we do that, guys, big shout out here. This episode here is sponsored by that Fight the Flesh bracelet. Go ahead and hear, and in the description, if you put that live LIVE, okay, you can go ahead and get 10% off your order. Okay, so the Fight the Flesh bracelet is ready for you. All right, so Lana, who we got? Who's the first person we bringing up here?
Oh, it's really going down tonight. Shout out to my mom. Text me. She says, you asking very good questions, son.
Shout out to mom. Shout out to
She
mom in the
She
chat.
said, one of my favorite shows. I want her. My mom always trying to get free. Why you always trying to get free books, mom?
Mom always gonna get a free
She
book.
want everybody come on. She's like, hey, I got to get that book.
Mom, listen, link is in the description, Mom. Go ahead and buy you that book, all right?
I love it.
So who we got? We got Sean coming up here. Sean, go ahead, Sean. Unmute yourself, Sean. Sean, can you hear us, by the way? There
What's
you
up,
have
Sean?
it. Sean sound like a strong brother right there.
I think, Sean, you've been on the show before. I can't see you, but you've been on the show before, right? That's what I thought. The new voice.
But Ryan is good with that. Well, Sean, how about this? For the people not familiar, give us your name, your age, and your location. Oh, my boy said I got a
hold on,
residence.
right.
He came on the flex a little bit.
Right. He
He
said, "Listen,
came
I
on
got
the flex.
multiple properties."
Hey, well, Sean, look, we're going to need you on Harley in Love. You sound like a good bachelor, brother. You single?
No, Sean married, right?
Oh, wait.
Whoa,
Wives
I didn't know
with an
that,
S?
Sean.
It was with an S?
Multiple wives. That's why I have residence in 2 different cities.
Okay,
Oh,
now Sean, listen.
whoa.
We got to unpack that, but we're
Whoa.
not gonna unpack that this episode. We actually got an episode coming up.
Oh, my gosh, Sean, you got to be there. I think it's next Wednesday. We're having
Most
a
definitely.
conversation. In fact, we're having a debate. The Harley Initiate is hosting another debate on biblical polygamy. My brother Damon Richardson is coming on here. He is absolutely against polygamy, 100%. A man and a woman, monogamy is the way of God. And we actually have another brother, 2 brothers actually, Mike Allen and Pete Rambo, coming on talking about biblical polygamy.
Who are both pastors, by the
Who
way.
are both pastors actually.
So it's gonna be
Okay.
I want you to actually come on to that conversation and join that one. But what's your question here for us tonight?
Well, before I go into my question, I know you guys said be kind of quick, but this is a touchy subject. I just wanted to ask some questions to get some understanding. That's all.
Okay.
Okay.
What's going on?
All right. My first question for her, do you preach to men?
I preach to everybody.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, my husband
All
and
right.
I have a church in Atlanta. So it's
Okay.
men and women.
So I'm assuming, Sean, I already can see where this is going. You have an issue with her being a woman and a pastor?
No, I don't have an issue. I was just going to ask her if she can break down the scripture for me. And then I also had another question.
No. We got to keep it. It's too much. Too
Whoa,
much.
whoa,
Sean. It's
no,
too much.
That's
Too
what
much.
I'm
Too
talking
much. Too
about.
much.
I said it's not a simple thing. I actually was in agreement with something she done that she's doing that a lot of people in the comment section was against. Because when you go into the book of Titus chapter 2, it said the aged woman likewise, that they can teach other women. It's not a problem. So when she say that she's going to the strip club and she's going out in the highways and byways speaking to other women, it's not a problem. But to go to the question, I want her to just kind of break the scripture down from 1 Corinthians chapter 14, verse 33. For God is not the author of confusion, but of peace, as in all churches of the saints. Let your women keep silence, for it is not permitted for them to speak. They are commanded to be under obedience. Also say the law. And if they want to learn anything, let them ask their husbands, for it is a shame for women to speak in church.
So that
was the end of it.
No, I get it. So essentially, it was what I thought. So essentially, your biggest issue is you have an issue that she's a woman and preaching essentially to the men. We talked about this prior.
Yeah. Well, we're gonna have a show on that one too, Sean. But this thing, because I do want to make sure we get the initiate's questions addressed. This is just not that show. Yeah,
it's just way off topic. I want to make sure we actually keeping it on topic here tonight. That's
not on topic.
No. It's not on topic for tonight. We actually have a conversation, by the way, queued up. We have a panel queued up with women and preaching, because that is pretty much is one of those hot button subjects that people are pretty much divided on whether or not the ladies should be ministering. And a lot of people got different opinions on it.
And I can tell Sean, the last episode he watched was that apologist episode.
Sean right. He came over with that apology. No, but Sean, listen, I appreciate you engaging, brother, because there is a space and time for those types of episodes, which we bring in over the next few weeks, by the way. So just be patient. But I want to stay on subject here because this conversation and this episode in particular, we really battling promiscuity and lust.
Most definitely. Now, what can I do to be a part of your panel? Because I want to talk to you guys. I actually go into a lot of conversations.
Send us an email at info@hardlyinitiated.com.
Do you guys look at your Instagram? Because I got a very large following.
No, Sean, listen.
Just email us, info@hardlyinitiated. We got you.
Info@hardlyinitiated.
And we'll bring you up next week because I think you'll be a good person to bring up next week. But info@hardlyinitiated.com, and we're going to let you go now, Sean, okay?
All right, y'all be blessed, brothers. And you too, sister.
Thank you.
Appreciate you, big dog.
All right.
What just in general, obviously, I just want, before we get to the next one.
You get that a lot?
I can imagine you.
Okay.
So this is what I was saying earlier as far as people being loud and wrong. The Bible is not to be read, it's to be studied. And you cannot take scripture out of context. First of all, that's not Jesus speaking in 1 Corinthians. That's Paul. In that time, there were women that were causing a disruption in the church. And Paul told them to go in to their husbands and learn from their husbands. But while they're in the temple, while he's teaching, to be silent. It has nothing to do with women not being in leadership. Also, it's a scripture. I told you Romans 8 to pull up. If you pull up Romans 8 and you read from I think 1 to maybe 15, could be give or take, but I know it's in Romans 8 when Paul is talking about his co-workers in the ministry. He's naming women, he's naming female apostles. Also, if a woman can birth Jesus, a woman can preach Jesus, okay? Another thing is, at the end of the day, I could tell you one thing. It's hard for me to take any type of scriptural advice for somebody who thinks it's okay to have multiple wives.
Now, see, and let me tell you, a lot of people in the chat feel that way.
Oh,
a lot of people in the chat, which is why next Wednesday is going to be explosive.
Yeah.
And it sounds like this is the thing, a pastor, I don't know if you're really ready for the smoke because we're going to have that conversation about women pastoring. We're going to have it.
Please bring me back.
I would love
please bring me back. Because this is the thing.
Yeah.
This is the thing. The Bible says, study to show thyself approved. Study, don't read. And a lot of times we read, but we don't study. A lot of times we take things out of context. You got to know who was talking, who they were talking to, and what was going on in that time. Everybody wants to take a woman that's supposed to be silent, but don't nobody talk about that you only supposed to be with one wife and you're not supposed to fornicate and you're not supposed to commit adultery. Nobody talks about that. Nobody talks about fornicators won't inherit the kingdom of God and homosexuals and adulterers. Nobody wants to hit on that. But we want to talk about this one scripture that we take out of context. We ignore all the women that God has used from the Old Testament to the New. We never talk about the women apostles that are listed in the Bible. We never talk about how many women Jesus appeared himself to and spoke to. We don't talk about none of the women that were judges, the queens that were in the Bible, but we take one scripture and we run with it and we're loud and wrong because nobody, not many, the ones who take it out of context, nobody took their time to study it. They just read it and went off somebody else's opinion about what they think women should do.
Okay.
There you have it.
Okay.
There you have
She getting heated up. Listen.
With that heat.
Sean helping us bring
I
the
tell
spice,
you one
bringing
thing.
the spice
I
to
bet
the
you
show.
one thing. God is never going to tell no woman while she's standing in front of the pearly gates, go to hell for preaching my gospel.
Oh, she getting one of these.
Listen, we got the gang in the back too. You heard them. Lana, bring us somebody else.
Who else we got, Lano?
We're going back old school.
Let's bring a lady up now. Let's cycle
Yeah,
it
but
out.
See, Pastor Danielle, you don't even know.
Who we got?
Do we
Is that
got
lady?
You got any young ladies back there? Good.
Is that Rafi's a young lady? Okay, let's do it. Okay, because I can't see.
What's up,
I can't
Rafi?
see. Rafi, you there?
Hi, yeah, it's a boy's name.
It's all good, Rafi.
there
It's
you
your
go.
name, Rafi. How you
It's
doing?
for the angel of healing.
Okay.
Okay. Listen, Rafi. Listen. Let us know your age and where you from. Where you calling
Your
it
age
from?
and
right
location.
I'm a little nervous about that. I've been through a lot. I don't like giving so much information.
now? Okay. Are you in the
Okay.
USA?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, you have a question specific to the episode tonight?
No, I was gonna just say I used to work for Uber and I'd get all these inappropriate people. I'd work later. I was living in my car after an abusive relationship, and I was the heat and everything. I had to work certain hours just to survive, and I would just throw out deliveries one after another, because they would be inappropriate, and I lost money, and I eventually got kicked off the platform. I would have reported to Uber. They wouldn't help. They were just, I'd get low stars, and it was bad. But yeah, I feel like I was really upset when I got kicked off the platform, but it was a gift from God. Now I look back, because it got me out of that space, and I got into safer work. And now I found church a few years ago, and I've been recommitting to like celibacy, and I'm waiting for marriage, and I've been working really hard, and the devil's after me and tempting me, but I've been praying daily, and I'm reading the Bible, and I'm connecting with people at church, and it's true. You could live a life that's not. I wasn't doing that stuff, but like I wasn't living the best life, and I'm on my path towards God, and I'm gonna find a husband who loves God more than he loves me, and that's, I don't know. I just thought I'd share my testimony.
Shout out to Rafi dropping that testimony.
Really, and it's when you say that you were having trouble Uber with the people on Uber, were they making sexual passes at you while they were in the vehicle with you?
They were threatening me. They were making passes. They were sending me inappropriate messages. I reported to Uber. They do nothing. They were just trying to get me in trouble. It was bad.
Wow.
Yeah, and I was really broke. Like, I needed to buy food. I was hungry. It was a hard time, but I got pushed out, because they said I had too little stars. And but I found other work, and life got better.
Sounds like you really still in the process, and also you sound like you changed your life, Rafi.
Yeah, I mean, I grew up very religious, and then I ran away from it because it was very culty. And then I rebelled, and I went to the modern world, and I was on the dating apps, and a lot of guys trying to mess with my head. And I kept saying, I'm waiting for marriage. And they tried to change my mind and mess with my head. And I got carried away in survival mode, letting guys mess with my head. But I still was able to wait for marriage, and I'm still waiting for marriage. But it's been such a hard, just fighting guys, and some of them get aggressive and pushy, and it's not easy. But now I have a church, and I feel supported, so I'm just grateful for that.
Raf, and you actually said that too. You said, when that statement was made by Ryan, you said, you can't really knock people out here trying to get their money.
Yeah.
Because you got people that's putting themselves in these, especially young ladies, putting themselves in these situations where there's so much exposure.
Yeah.
But it's truly because they have to survive. And some people literally don't have any network, any family, any friends, for whatever season and reason they might be in their life. And, unfortunately, those things come with it. But Rafi, thank you so much for coming up here and sharing. Because there might be some young ladies in that situation, and I'm happy that you have now graduated, from that season and are in a safer space right now. So big shout out to you, Rafi. Okay.
All right, thank you.
No problem.
Rafi standing on business. She said we waiting 2 marriages. Is that so?
Well, you brought that up about that Uber. You hit that on the nail.
Oh, because I know because
I think the same thing when I get into a car and I see a young. I do think in the back of my mind, because I know as a man, I could never imagine my woman out driving an Uber.
Yeah.
Like as a man, putting my woman in those environments with other men is it's one of the most dangerous things a woman. Even when I get my lady a Uber for her to go from one place to another, I still feel very nervous about that. That's still a very nerve-wracking experience. Yep. Like sometimes I try to cancel. Like I look at the new picture, I'm like, oh, hell nah, he look funny.
Oh yeah.
Hell nah. We're gonna try to get us. I don't like this one, right? So, that's just something that you really got to consider.
Yeah, and I tell you because if we go back to my journal, my diary, let me tell you, I was studying the game, and when you studying the game, you got to study the opponent. Because that's how I looked at women. It was complete objectification. So when I was studying and when I was really trying to identify the low-hanging fruit, not just the woman that just walking up to you putting it out, but the women that's in certain situations where they're more open to sexual advances, I identified all that. I like all the career paths that you in. I know them all. I done tried it all. I really done been there. Like, you talking about, like, predatorily trying to have casual sex with women, and that's where I was. So when I look and I see women in doing those certain things, like I tell women all the time when they talk to me on a personal level, like, man, you got to get out of that, because you got creeps, but then you got real dressed up. They everything about them appear gentlemanly, and they might treat you well, but the end goal is to really have soulless sex. And women can get caught in that, that cycle where they're putting themselves out there and they continue to have relationship after relationship with these men who come in this very nice package, but have the exact, negative and toxic intentions as the creeps. Because the creeps and the guys that got the nice package, they want the same thing, just sex, and they don't want nothing else from you. So, like I really was on that, you know what I mean? So when I tell women like certain things you shouldn't do, like it's for real. And I think it's also because that's a viable aspect of it. And I think a lot of women just get involved in these different things where they put themselves in just really awful predicaments. Like you shouldn't be in nobody's house, nobody house cleaning and, the hustlings of private quarters. You shouldn't be driving around late night, people getting in your car intoxicated coming from parties. You shouldn't be going to people's houses doing these one-on-one massages and these different things. Now, I understand it's a hustle and a gig mentality, but for you to even do something like that is, to me, is really a lack of creativity, because there's many ways to get money. It's many ways to do things to take care of yourself. But when all you face is with them bills, you gonna do the first thing that come up. And a lot of times that's the career paths that put you in really bad situations.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it looked like we got Roger backstage, Lionel. So can we bring Roger up here to the stage? Real quick, Roger, can you hear me clearly? Roger, can you hear me? How you feeling, by the way? I know it's getting late.
I'm good.
Okay, good. Roger back there?
I got the paralegals hit me up. They say
Roger left.
I got the lawyers hit me up. They say, shout out to Audrey. She says, I have over a dozen sexual assault claims that I'm actively litigating.
Wow. That's like a big thing.
Big thing.
We got Dream Lay? Hold on, wait. We say, okay, Lionel says we got Tristan here. Bring up Tristan. Tristan, can you hear me, by the way?
Yes, I can hear you.
There you go. Tristan, what's up with you, brother? Give me your name. Well, I know your name. Now, give me your age and your location.
I'm 36. I'll be 37 next month, and I'm in South Carolina.
All right. Tristan, what's your question for tonight for us, brother?
Okay. My heart is beating fast. I'm a new member, so excuse me if I stutter a little bit. But
shout out to all the new initiatives. We appreciate you.
No problem. So Danielle's testimony really hits home for me because I actually did porn, I did prostitution, and I'm currently pursuing ministry. And one of my biggest concerns was how am I going to be able to, share my testimony, doing ministry, what obstacles are going to come about? Like, how did you persevere through this? Like, before you started your own church, like, what motivation, encouragement? You know what I'm saying? Because, like you said, a lot of people don't want to hear the real. They want this picture perfect pastor, but they don't want the vulnerability, of what God brought you out of. So, like, what could you encourage as far as like how to identify an effective deliverance ministry, and what motivation and encouragement could you give to someone in my shoes pursuing ministry?
Well, first of all, I am so proud of you. I'm so proud of you that you escaped that lifestyle and that you have answered the call of ministry on your life. So shout out to you for that, because it's hard. It is hard. It is from one extreme. Sex industry to ministry is like from one extreme to the next. So I am so godly proud of you. My advice, my encouragement to you is do what God told you to do. Do exactly what God told you to do, because he said Tristan, right? Tristan.
Yep.
Whether you were cookie cutter perfect, they'll still try to find a flaw. Jesus himself had no issues, and yet to this day they deny him and crucify him to the cross. And so whether you have a checkered past, whether you were perfect in your past, they're going to find a flaw, but do what God has called you to do. As you can see, there are some people who don't agree with women in ministry. Some people don't agree with porn people in ministry. Some people don't like my testimony and what God has done. But at the end of the day, I'm 15 years in and I'm effective. God has used me. I'm not everybody's cup of Casamigos or whatever they drinking nowadays. I'm not everybody's cup of Hennessy, because they show drinking more than tea. Amen. Right. And so I may not be for everybody, but I am for somebody. I may not be for Brother Sean. I may not be for the next caller, but there is somebody that's watching me that can say, you know what, her story is helping me. There's going to be somebody that's going to listen to you, Tristan, that's going to say, he encouraged me, his testimony, his tenacity, and his boldness for Christ, despite his past, it's going to help somebody. So I encourage you to do what God told you to do. The naysayers are going to be there. The haters going to be there. The devil and his demons, his imps, his legions, his strong men, witches, warlocks, all of that are going to be there. But you do what God has called you to do.
Let me tell you, we cut off that video, and the testimonies just go crazy. Like, we might got to do that a little bit more often.
What video are you speaking of?
We can't see. We can't see.
Oh,
so
yeah.
My only other question was, how do you identify an effective deliverance ministry? Like, because I'm looking for that. I've been hearing that a lot on your videos lately, Ryan and Tyshawn. So I want to be able to find something just to make sure that I'm not walking into ministry with unknown baggage or,
I am for deliverance. I don't believe salvation without deliverance is effective, because you can get saved, but how do you stay saved? Deliverance teaches us to stay saved, because we fight off that old man. You said you're in the South Carolina region, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So I would, if you were in that area, I can't think of any churches off the top of my dome right now. But if I do, I'll send it to Tyshawn and Ryan for you to look up. But in your own time, if you can look up some deliverance ministries. And the first one you go to don't mean that you join and become a part. You go until you feel it in your heart that this is where God wants you to be.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
There you have it.
Tristan, I got a question. Tristan, how did you get introduced to prostitution?
Through porn.
Okay. That's just a natural progression.
Yeah, like that. Once you do porn, like, you have fans that hit you up, and then other porn with people, they start suggesting, hey, you can go with this person or go with that person. It's like it's a very thin line.
Yeah,
and it's an easy transition.
Wait, fans as in women hit you up?
Yeah, like fans on social media. They hit you up and then they'll offer a price. It's like a blurred line that easily gets crossed.
Wow.
Well, I always say porn is just professional prostitution. You still have
that, pretty much. Yeah.
But you develop a fan base, people that like your scenes or whatever, and then they'll reach out privately for you to go with them private. That's what he's talking about.
The one-on-one consultation.
101, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm proud of you, man.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't make it out. I'm so proud of you.
And thank you, because your testimony is effective. I was wondering how I was going to get through this, and I came across this. So thank you for your braveness, your boldness, and your testimony.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Man, Tristan, shout out to you as well, man. Both of y'all, man, getting it, getting out of there.
Big shout out. See, this, and we've never had we've never talked about, like, we've never had people giving prostitution testimonies on the platform.
And a man at that. He just freed so
That
many
blew
people.
my mind.
A man called to say, I come out of porn and prostitution. That just freed so many young men, boys, older men that are either in it or was in it and ashamed to say anything, because when you think of prostitution, the first thing you think of is a woman. And so I shout out to him.
No, yeah, absolutely. By the way, y'all want to go ahead and get your super chats read. Y'all can go ahead and send your super chats in. We reading the super chats tonight. I think the super chats is it over 10 or 20 tonight?
Yeah, it's over $10 tonight.
Over 10. We're going to read all super chats that you sent in. We got a couple here from the members we got to read.
Yeah, shout out to Couture Leotards for dropping these 5 memberships. We appreciate you.
Absolutely.
5 of those. Shout out to BTKS, Birthing the Kingdom with the Supernatural, for becoming an official initiate. So she day 1
there
now.
Go.
But let me give a shout out to my day ones. Shout out to Janelle, 18 months membership. She says, Danielle, you are truly a force to be reckoned with. So sorry for all you've been through. You are powerfully poised to save and change many lives. I just know you are a heck of a mom if you have kids.
Oh, I have one son.
Okay, so she's a heck of a mom.
Thank you.
There you go.
Shout out to Lydia. Where have you been? We love you.
Right.
Yeah, Lydia over there in the UK. So it's super late over there, guys, if you don't know. She says, good morning, guys. Going to bed. It's 3:30 a.m. Very good show tonight, as always. When Lydia is in the chat, we rocking. We got some transformative stuff going on. And shout out to another legend. Shout out to Kayanne, 18 months.
Wow.
And Kayanne, she just keep another one. You know, she's one of our moderators. She just keep it, brief and brilliant. She knows the deal. She just says, look at God.
Wow. Look at God. That's right.
Listen, we only going to bring a couple more people up, maybe 1 or 2 more people before we shut this thing down. So y'all go ahead, get your last couple super chats in, and we only going to pull a few people out of here. Lana, who's going to be up here next that we bringing up to the stage?
Bring up Tiffany.
We got Tiffany coming up.
Hey guys, how are you doing?
What up, Tiffany?
Hey, I'm calling from Atlanta. I'm 36 years old. I just want to thank Danielle for her testimony. I actually am a former dancer, and I got into dancing through my mom. Actually introduced me to the lifestyle, me and my oldest sister. And I also have a degree, and I'm a former flight attendant, but it is a dark industry, and I appreciate her just sharing her light. I've been out of the dance industry for over 5 years now. Been celibate for almost over a year. So I just want to thank her for the work that she's doing and keep pouring into these girls. And I'm reading the chats, and everyone is judging, but you're doing God's work.
That's right.
Because we will not talk to anyone coming in there with a long skirt on and a Bible.
That part.
You look like you came from the trenches, and you're gonna reach us. You're gonna reach the young girls, and they need someone like that.
Thank you.
And we just appreciate you. God bless you, and keep doing what you're doing.
Thank you.
Keep pouring.
Thank
you,
Tiffany.
Thank
I'm
you.
so proud of you for coming out and getting your degree and being a flight attendant. I am so proud of you. I thought being introduced to it by my choir member was something, but you said your mom introduced you.
She was a former dancer. She was a house mom here in Atlanta. I graduated from Howard. Yeah. So,
Wow.
I was doing it while I was in school. I thought it was okay. And then I just didn't feel fulfilled. And I just knew that I was being led to hell. If I didn't pick up my Bible, we would go to church. I was at revivals, different things growing up as a little kid, singing in a choir, all of that stuff. And I actually took the dark path. It was the money, it was the lifestyle. I got pregnant my senior year in college, and I was just like, I needed to take care of my daughter. And that's how I got introduced to it, just wanting to take care of my daughter and, just get that extra money.
Yeah.
And it's a dark lifestyle, but once God has his hand on you and you're he's going to always lead you back. And that's what happened to me.
Oh,
So thank you.
Glory. Thank you.
Powerful,
Thank you.
Tiffany.
She said she in Atlanta. Tiffany, I'm in Atlanta. Come
Yes,
hug my
I'm in
neck.
Okay,
Come hug my neck.
What church can she hug your neck at?
At the New is what we call it, the New. But it's New Creation Christian Center. We are right in Norcross. I know you know where the Papa Do's is on Jimmy Carter.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, we right
Absolutely.
there. Oh my goodness.
I'm trying to be there for that link up. That's what's up.
There you go.
right?
Church. I like that.
That's what's
That's
up.
amazing.
That's
Tiffany,
what's up.
Amazing.
I'm so glad you joined us tonight. And
Thank you.
I know we only got a brief, portion, but incredible testimony.
No, incredible. Thank you so
it's
much.
deeper than that, y'all. But
Oh,
yeah,
I
just
know.
wanted to share my little too. Yeah,
Yeah.
but I'm definitely gonna come see you.
Oh.
Absolutely.
I can't wait.
And thank you, Ryan. Thank you for pulling me. That was God, because I was like, how can I get on right now? And I literally just Googled the number.
Oh, hey, chill. What's going on?
I'm
Don't be
sorry.
telling.
Oh,
Man,
no, I'm sorry.
Tiffany, look.
Okay, bye. Okay.
You good, Tiffany.
Hey, well, check it out.
To beat me up. I'm sorry. I was just being truthful.
No,
I
we
get it.
appreciate
I get
you.
it. Well, one more time. What is the name of your church? One more time.
New Creation Christian Center. We're in Norcross, Georgia.
Anybody that's in Atlanta, you want to join it. If you're not in Atlanta, you coming in town. What's the service?
And we ain't early morning. It's 12:30 and 3:30. We got afternoon church. I know who my audience is. I know some of us still in the club. They want to sleep till about 9, 10 o'clock, and then we have service at 12:30 and 3:30. So, yeah.
There you have it. They coming in. right up off. Right
After
off.
the shift.
It's all good.
And that's all right. No judgment, just Jesus.
So there you go.
Yes, Jesus.
There you
Thank
go.
y'all.
Thank you so
Thank you,
much, Tiff.
Tiffany.
Much love to
No
you.
problem. Have a great night.
Much
You
love
too.
to you.
Good night.
Ryan,
love
Lano said we got to get one more before we get up out of here. Who we bringing up here, Lano? Who we got?
Just one more.
Jasmine coming
Okay.
up here. Jazz, can you hear me? Welcome to Hardly Initiated.
Hi, can y'all hear me?
We
Yeah.
sure
We
can.
can hear you, Jazz. What's up with you? What's your age and location?
I'm 26 and I'm in the Bay Area.
She in the Bay Area with it. Okay, they in the building.
Callie.
What's your question tonight?
So I went to college in Atlanta, and last week y'all were talking about principalities and demons, and I forgot what episode it was. I was watching the Jezebel Spirit over Atlanta, and I had
Pastor
a lot
Richard
of history.
Lorenzo.
Yeah,
Yes.
yes. I have a history of abuse in my childhood past that just really and I just never really had any men who I could go to who I felt safe with. And when I went to Atlanta, it was around the time, and music is very powerful. So it was around the time when Megan Thee Stallion was popping, and she was talking about used men, all these things, and there was on social media this concept of sugar daddies and everything started getting really popular, and it's advertised to college students and stuff as a fun time, and then these men could put you on and everything, and it's like you said, it's advertised very much like light, it's not darkness. And so I found myself in some very dangerous situations, thinking that it would be an escape and it would just be fun, and the way it was advertised. And I gave my life to God a few years ago, and I'm just now going through the process of healing from everything and stuff. And if I find it very hard as a young woman who does want marriage and a future and to really build a life in the future, but I always find myself thinking and falling into that thought from the devil, who will respect me, who will want me if I ever want to open up and be honest about what I've been through. So if you just have any advice for any women who are dealing with that.
Jasmine,
Yes.
can you see my ring?
Yes.
And you wasn't on camera with it. You just did this in college. I'm on camera. I was in the clubs. I'm in magazines, all kind of stuff, worldwide with it. You see this ring? 12 years of marriage. I don't ever want you to think that you are not worthy for a man to see your worth. There are some men, like Tyshawn said, there are some men who won't be able to receive women who have checkered past like us. But there is a man that God has ordained and assigned just for you. That's not just going to want to put you on your back, but they see a wife in you. They see a mother in you. They see legacy in you. Your past may draw him to you for him to see that you came out of that and then turned into the beautiful woman that God is turning you into. So I don't want you to feel like you're so far gone that a man wouldn't, choose you as a wife. Because if I got chose, you can get chose. You understand what I'm saying? And I feel like I did a little bit extra. I went a little further than what you did. My advice is get so lost in God that you're not asking for a husband, but that you're asking him to prepare you to be a wife.
Amen.
You ask him to prepare you to be a wife. You get to know him. You love him. You let him transform and renew you into what he wants you to be. And before you know it, your man of God, your Boaz, your partner in Christ is going to find you. Don't think that you're too far gone, baby. I got a good one. I didn't just get anything, and God ain't gonna just give you anything. I didn't just get no rugrat, no thug, no dude that didn't want no job, that didn't love God. I got a good black man, a good saved man. I'm talking about he is one out of the books. You hear me? God gave me his best when he gave me my husband. You understand? And so he's no respecter of persons. What he did for me, Jasmine, I believe he'll do for you as well.
Thank you so much. Like,
welcome.
I'm trying to find what my assignment is right now. I just got accepted into law school. Like I said, I've experimented and I've done some things in my past that I'm not proud of, but I came from a very, very messed up background, and like I believe that God is leading me to on the legal side to help women get out of this, and I'm really, really leaning into it. Getting courage to tell my testimony one day, and I just hope, and I won't hope, like you told me, I know that it'll be more people coming out of that and exposing the demonic principalities in music and in cities, and just to help young girls know that like they don't have to do that, and that's not where freedom is going to be in. So thank you so much.
You're welcome. I'm proud of you, and congratulations on law school. I might
Thank
need
you.
you later. Appreciate
Appreciate you, Jazz. Appreciate you.
All right, Jazz, you have a good night, okay?
You too.
Awesome.
Man.
I believe
Awesome.
that. I believe, a
love it.
woman with a checker past can absolutely find a good man. I absolutely believe that. Yeah.
And can.
Yeah.
Tyshawn.
No, because I was thinking on that same path too as Tarshawn for a long time. I actually met a young lady I was dating just, very briefly early last year. And she was super dope. It just didn't work out for other things. But when she was, detailing her testimony to me, I initially was like, oh my God, like you've been through so much stuff. You was doing this. There's no way I could, but she was so past it and she was so saved that it was odd. Every time she would share these bits and pieces about her, I would actually like feel closer to God. Like her testimony literally would move me. And I felt it's the craziest thing because some of the stuff she shared, it's like, I'm like, no way. Like, it's no way you've been through that stuff. Like, I can't even see that on you. You know what I mean? And it was a very promiscuous lifestyle. And she was so far removed that anytime she would share, I would literally feel blessed for hearing what this young woman had been through, But, fortunately, it didn't work for other reasons, but it wasn't that. And she was literally the first woman I had dated that shared these types of things with me. One, is also the first woman I believed that she was past it.
Yeah.
That's one thing. And then two, she was the first woman that shared those things where I literally was like, that didn't matter to me. So I truly believe that it's possible for a woman to do that.
This shout out to you.
Yeah.
She looking at me like that.
He's still working. He's still working over there. He's still growing.
Because what if a woman is everything that you pray for? Everything from looks to mindset to financial education, and I mean the perfect woman in your eyes. And everybody's story ain't as broad as mine. Mine you can look up. You know what I'm saying? Some women, like you said, they did it and didn't have no coin, or they did it and didn't get the money, but there was no cameras there. They did it in the city that nobody knows them. And so she just might be the one that nobody knew I did it. It's not publicated, but I did do it. And they share that with you, and she's your perfect woman. You gonna end the relationship?
Well, it's so hard because you can't throw that in there and say
Yeah,
she's
I
a perfect
can.
woman, because then that's a major imperfection for me. Now here's the thing. Here's what I would say. I would say in the example when I told you porn in particular.
Okay.
It was porn. It wasn't, she had sex with a couple people. Because first of all, ain't no man about to not meet a woman that ain't had sex.
Right.
At this point
it's rare.
in this life. That's a
rare.
wrap. Finding virgins.
Virgin is what?
That ain't happening, fellas.
10 to 20.
All right.
It's rare.
I'm not expecting virginity from a woman.
Yeah.
It's just certain levels. I think we all have our boundaries. It's like, could you accept a man who, probably can a man that touched some kids in the past be delivered?
Of course, he could be delivered.
Yeah, but might be some women that I'm not dealing with a man that has touched some men. So, and
I feel you.
But that's wrong that you're doing that because he can get delivered from that.
I feel you.
Because that's pedophilia. It's just like we just got those things.
It's just that thing. Yeah,
it's just certain things where it's like because it's not worth the mental torment. Because if your mind is not strong enough to get past certain things, you will be tormented. Because that thought, and all tormented is a thought that dominates your mind.
Absolutely.
And I want peace. I need to have peace.
Well, I'm just joking with you. I think it's preference. Everybody has their preference.
No, that is what it means.
You prefer to not.
Now here,
do it for your own.
I will add this because I used to think as far as women that had promiscuous past, they could never get out of having the residue and the mind of a promiscuous woman. I used to actually believe that. And that actually is, and I think a lot of men do believe that. And I think you can't believe that and believe in God.
I was just about to say.
Because you actually reduce God if you think that he can't
on him.
Pull somebody out of any particular ailment. So that is something I actually had to work on. Now it's really about, am I going to be at peace with what was done in the past? And that's where the conversation does move to preference at that point what we're talking about now.
Well, maybe y'all should have some men on the show that's been with women, married women, had children with women who have checkered past.
Well, since you said that, we actually got a very surprised guest in the back.
Who's that?
Let's bring him up.
Wait. I'm like, what is going on right now?
Right, usually I send Ty a little text or something, let him know what's going on. He has no idea who's in the back.
All right, yeah, I'm just as surprised as everybody else.
Is he back there? What's up, brother? Welcome to the show. How you doing?
I'm good. How you doing?
Is that husband?
Listen, I'm gonna give you your time to introduce yourself.
Hey, boo.
Hey,
Pastor Ron McCord.
What's up?
What's up, Pastor?
You guys, I enjoy you guys' show. It was amazing, and I love your show. I'm gonna continue to listen to your show. But listen, I have a problem when people say women is not pastors. That's a major problem for me. I have no problem with it. I love my wife. I love everything she does. And listen, whoever said that women can't preach, it's a lie. When Jesus arose from the dead,
unsound for sure.
What did Jesus do? Went to Mary and said, "Go to my disciples."
Tell them what you saw.
Ended right there. And let me tell you something.
Oh, Lord.
For pouring to the pulpit, I never judged my wife.
That's right.
I love her for who she was, an evangelist when I met her. And that was the number one thing I love about her. And to the day I die, I will support her. I will adore her. And I will tell anybody, she is a woman of God. Women should listen to her. Men should listen to her. And they should understand that what she went through, let me tell you, you would never understand. But I thank God for her, and I love her, and I honor her, and I support her. In Jesus' name, I pray.
In Jesus' name, I pray.
Now, this is
I got a question.
This is Pastor Ron McCord. I mean, this is the husband of Pastor Danielle. He has joined us live. He has watched the entire show. He already gave us props for the show and the platform, but now he's dropping game on what's right and what ain't right.
Yeah.
Go ahead with your question, Ty.
Because we were actually just getting into the fact that this young lady came on and she had doubts that she could potentially get a good man, because of because she had a checker pass. You are obviously somebody that was able to overlook. You literally read the testimony in detail of your wife. You know it all. Like it ain't nothing to hide. What was it that you saw in your lady that allowed you to overlook a checker pass and say, I want this woman to be my wife?
Let me tell you a story. When I read her story, I was like, wow, how do you make it through? And I was a person that, I'm not saying I'm a handsome guy, but women was attracted to me.
You fine to me, baby.
It's been modest.
And a woman told me that your woman stay with women and men. How can you deal with that? I said, I don't know that person. I know the evangelist. And that's the only person that I love. So people can be so judgmental, but they don't know the story. And I was so amazed of her personally, that what she went through. And I know God told me that is your wife. And I was like, you know what? I'm done. And I was so amazed about that story, about her testimony. And when I met her late bishop, and I said, Bishop, because I'm much older than she is. I know she get mad when I say that. I said, I don't like young women. And my bishop said, you are assigned to her. And let me tell you, I lost everything. But God have blessed me with more since I've been with her. And I just trust God. I know that people need to come to New Creation and see the story of this woman. They miss it in Atlanta. I'm telling you, you need to hear people to say when you're right and when you're wrong. It's no judgmental. And I just love her to death. And I'm just praise God that I made the decision to marry her.
Wow. Wait, but I sound like a man in love right there.
Oh yeah.
Whipped.
That's awesome.
Whipped.
Awesome. I'm glad you called in, Pastor. I'm glad you called in. That was dope.
Hey, thank you so much, Pastor, for coming up in here and giving us your voice and lending us the brother in here to give us the other side of the story.
Right.
So you have a good night, brother, man. Thank you. And thank you everybody else that's in the chat right now that stayed in here for this powerful testimony. I told you it was going to be powerful.
It was.
All right.
Real quick, just want to show love. Shout out to Known It Soul 88. That's actually Tristan, new initiate. He says, this is Tristan. Ryan and Tyshawn, please get me that info from Danielle. We got you. Shout out to Anissa. She's got one more question. One real quick, make it short and sweet. Shout out to Anissa. She says, when a woman is living that lifestyle where making money is the primary motivation for survival, what resources can we provide to help her transition out of it without coming across as judgmental? Other than From Porn to the Pulpit by Pastor Danielle McCord, what other resources?
You can help her fill out education. You can help her fill out applications. You can help her get back enrolled in school if she's a high school dropout. You can present things as I would have took help and not looked at it as being judged. If someone was genuinely saying, hey, I know all you know is, hustle and bustle in the sex industry, but hey, I want to help you. This job is hiring. I know you probably don't have any work history, but I'll help you fill out an application. Hey, I know you dropped out of school. I can help you get your GED, your high school diploma, whatever resources. What are you good at? You know what I'm saying? What are you good at outside of selling your body? Some women know how to slay hair. Some women do makeup. Some women are good with children. Some women know how to make clothes. Some women are good with paperwork and can type up things, do grants. Find out what she's good at and help her to succeed in that area.
There you go. That's thorough right there.
Yeah.
That's thorough.
We A1. Listen, we done did it.
Yeah.
We done did it tonight.
We absolutely have.
Happy New Year.
Excellent. Transformative, transformational, content that I think we all work together to put on tonight, because your testimony itself is truly incredible.
Thank you.
And you came a long way.
Thank you.
You came a long way. And shout out to your husband for finding him a diamond.
There you go.
Finding him
I'm happy we got to
queen.
feature this on Hardly Initiated, the first episode of the new year for Hardly Initiated. We are back every Monday and Wednesday at 8 p.m. I need everybody, if you don't want to read it yourself, have it as a gift. get from pouring to the pulpit right here. Danielle McCord has put something very special for us to have in our collections. So the link is in the description. You can go ahead and cop it on Amazon and go ahead and add that to your shelf. All right. And also what you got to have rocking on your wrist, the Fight the Flesh bracelet, y'all. Listen, we really fight. This whole episode was really about fighting that flesh. And you're going to just have you a stylish trinket and a reminder. Just add it on, another extra piece to the layer of your armor that you're going to keep up on you. So go ahead and get that as well. Type live in if you want to go ahead and get 10% off. And for all of you that want to support, that's just one of the many ways, guys. I ask that you subscribe to the channel. That is another major way. Man, we walked into the new year with over 450,000 subscribers, y'all. I think last year we was less than 200,000 at the top of last year. The growth has been tremendous.
We got to hit 1 million this year. That's the goal. 2025, we got to put the M on the board. And I think we can do that with some very powerful movement from this platform.
And you see, guys, like it's very difficult to make content like this really have waves in the space. When we first started the podcast, man, and we was talking about, you know what women ain't doing. Right. Yeah. And when we was talking, when we was really one of them podcasts, you can go back in our artillery and look. Weekly. We was on Hollywood Unlocked and Shade Room.
Weekly.
Every week. Now, as we go about transitioning, it's very difficult to get these messages out. But these are the messages that need to go viral. People need to be hearing Danielle, because you got ladies who this close from sex work and who already in the sex work game.
Don't even know it.
Who don't even know it. I mean, don't even talk about, first of all, lust and sex has completely taken over our social media. It's completely taken over our school systems. It's taken over our entertainment. So we have to fight and combat these things. So a simple subscribe is a big way that you can help join the fight. And all the people that want to continue to donate to the platform, this is absolutely how you do. How, Delano, go ahead and pull it up on the screen. Shout out to everybody that has ever supported Hardly Initiated, because you got us where we are today. So we love you and we absolutely appreciate y'all. Thank you guys that's still in the fight. We absolutely love you. Stay tuned for next Wednesday. It's testimony week. I got Tiffany Buckner coming on. I was talking to Tiffany Buckner the other day. By the way, I talk to Tiffany Buckner at this point probably like once or every other week at this point. And I was talking. I said, man, Tiffany, we never got your testimony. As incredible as a deliverance minister as you are, we never got that testimony. And Tiffany's testimony is incredible. And in some ways in the same family, because Tiffany was a seductress. And she's coming up on here. She's really going to break down what that looked like and what it did. Literally, she said on her life, literally demons came upon her, and she said she became a straight up man eater. So we're going to actually break that down on this Wednesday. It's going to be a hell of an episode. So I want you to join us this Wednesday at 8 p.m. And for all my lovers, Hardly in Love tomorrow and Thursday night, I want to thank you. Special shout out again to you, Pastor Danny. Thank you. Because I enjoyed you. Anything you want to leave the people with before we get up out of here tonight?
I just want to drop this for two audiences. One for the women and men who are caught up in the sex industry and you feel like there's no hope, there's no self-worth in me. I just want to tell you that if God did it for me, he's able to do it for you. There is light at the end of the tunnel. All you got to do is give him a yes, Lord, and let him do the rest. And then for my other audience of people who are in ministry and you have a checkered past and you're worried about people judging you and not understanding your assignment, do what God has called you to do, because at the end of the day, you got to stand before a perfect God and not imperfect people.
That's bars.
There you
That's it.
have it. And listen, y'all already know how we do it. Hardly Initiated. We are out.